Hey guys, over the last couple of years, I've had loads of people ask me how they can support the show, and now you can. So if you like this show and you want to support it and you want to keep it free, head on over to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/support. Thanks for all you do. If you're a business owner and you want to increase your cash flow, or if you're a label or artist and you want to promote new music, then listen up. For information about advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, including information on geographically targeted ads, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey guys, I got to tell you a quick story. I recently put in a pair of EMG pickups into my Les Paul Classic, and tinkering with electronics, wires, not my bag. That being said, a little over an hour later, I'd installed the pickups with literally no problems at all. And the quality of the sound is absolutely amazing. I put in the retroactive Fat 55s. That's a new set that they have, and that's because I wanted a vintage, British Brown sound. And these Fat 55s are modeled after the tone of the classic PAFs, which is exactly what I got. The thing I wasn't expecting is it sort of feels like my volume and tone knobs have been expanded to 20. There's like a lot more responsiveness in the volume and tone, and I could even get harmonics now at low volumes on the neck pickup, and any preconceived notions I had about installation being difficult or, there's a problem having a battery in there were totally wrong. The battery thing, it's like putting a battery in one of my kids' toys when they were little children growing up. It's just a total non-issue. And in fact, I'm going to wind up getting the Strat set next because installation for that is even easier because it comes with the pick guard and the pickup's already attached to the pick guard. And if you want to check out EMGs for yourself, now's actually a great time to do this because Rob and Allison are making a special offer available for listeners of this show only. And here it is. For a limited time, head on over to emgpickups.com, buy one or more sets of pickups, and enter ELG in the discount code section of the shopping cart. ELG, of course, for Everyone Loves Guitar. And they're going to give you 15% off, which is huge. The biggest discounts they ever give is 10%. Plus, they're going to give away $70 worth of free bonuses, including an EMG cinch bag, a pick tin, lanyard, stickers, and a t-shirt. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% satisfied. Plus, not a 2-year performance guarantee on the performance of the actual pickups themselves, but a lifetime performance guarantee. And on top of everything else, you're going to get free shipping. So there's basically no risk at all here for you to try a set or two of EMG pickups. And the great thing about these pickups is, and I got 2 sets, once you install them, and by the way, there's no soldering involved at all, because I couldn't have done it if there was, quite frankly. But once you do install them, all you need to do to swap them out and put another set in is literally disconnect one wire on each pickup, and then you're done. That's it. It's kind of like putting Legos together. It's that easy. So go to emgpickups.com, enter ELG in the shopping cart for your discount code, and that's it. You get to take advantage of this offer right now. Man, this one's always a big challenge. If you want to buy or sell a home or investment property and you're here in the Tampa Bay area, in Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco counties, then listen up. West Florida Real Estate is a local residential real estate broker that's helped over 250 Bay Area homeowners buy and sell their properties in the last 4 years alone. If you're looking to sell, you'll want to get their free report, The 7 Biggest Mistakes Homeowners Make When Hiring a Realtor. And if you're looking to buy a property, you definitely want to get your hands on the 21 Most Expensive Mistakes Tampa Home Buyers Make When Buying a Home. Each one of these reports is going to save you time and money. Inside, you'll discover the 7 most important things to consider when hiring a realtor, what to do if you're buying and selling a home at the same time, and the danger of choosing a realtor who agrees with everything you say. To get your hands on these free reports, head on over to westfloridarealestate.com. That's westfloridarealestate.com. The Be Fulfilled Journal helps you be more honest with yourself and with others and be more open to handling things you've avoided dealing with for years. It's a 12-week online and journal program that helps you identify and eliminate things you do that are causing you stress and live in more gratitude and joy. It was actually developed by a long-term friend of mine who got sober in 2008, and he's put together a great deal just for my listeners. You get the 300-page hardcover journal and access to the 12-week video program online, plus free shipping, plus membership in a private Facebook support group with others going through the program, plus a 5-day mini course showing you how to let go of stuff that's draining your energy, plus a 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. To start your journey and get all the bonuses, go to BeFulfilledJournal.com/ELG. That's BeFulfilledJournal.com/ELG. Hey, this is Craig. We're going to try to start airing a lot of these episodes in video. It's something that people have wanted for a long time, so we're going to try to do it. A couple of things I want to say is, first of all, thanks for listening and watching, as always. Second of all, on this call with John Wedemeyer, who's just a great guy and really a terrific player, we had audio issues on and off throughout the call. It's a great call. Once in a blue moon this happens on Skype, because we're bound by technology. There's nothing we can do. And for some reason, it went in and out. So I apologize. There's really nothing you can do. That happens one out of, I don't know, 25 or 30 calls, which is a really good ratio. But if you can grin and bear it, I'd appreciate it. Second thing is, I want to apologize to my wife because she's going to hate me because she's out of town and I'm not shaving. She hates when I have facial hair. And so she's going to see this, or if she sees this, she's going to be besides herself seeing me with all this facial hair. So, babe, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But by the time you're back home, I'll be clean shaven as usual. Anyway, sorry, honey. That's it, man. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching on video moving forward. A lot of this is dependent upon how comfortable my guest feels. So to the extent they're comfortable, we'll roll with it. I always say I got a face for radio, but it is what it is. Thanks for listening. See you in a minute.
All right.
Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, and I am with an outstanding, one of the world's best, most unknown guitar players, according to Lowell Workman, who I want to give a shout out to, who hooked me up with John Wedemeyer, my guest today. He's when Lowell Workman says he's one of the greatest guitar players I've ever met, that's, you know, pretty much just stop what you're doing. And
well, we could end now, because that's about. Lyle's one of my heroes. That's about the coolest thing I could ever hope to hear. So thank you, Lyle, because you're the man.
Let me tell you about John. John is from Los Gatos, California. He's been playing guitar professionally since age 19. He's proficient in a wide variety of styles. He spent much of his early career steeped in blues and roots music. He's recorded and or toured with many blues legends like Charlie Musselwhite, Jimmy Witherspoon, Lowell Fulson, Curtis Salgado, John Lee Hooker, Luther Tucker, and Bonnie Raitt, to name a few. Later, John spent some time in the jam band scene working with ex-Grateful Dead members Vince Welnick and Phil Lesh. God, you are really diverse, man. That's wow. Yeah, I mean, you don't hear. What's that?
I have musical ADD.
Yeah, man, but I mean, to
look
be
at the squirrel.
Since relocating to Las Vegas in 2006, John's played and recorded with another diverse list of artists, including the Righteous Brothers, Donnie and Marie Osmond, Clint Holmes, Kristen Chenoweth, Debbie Gibson, Michael Grimm, who was 2010 winner of America's Got Talent, Susan Anton. God, she's one of the prettiest women ever. Wayne Newton. Yeah, I'm sure. Wayne Newton, Cindy Blackman-Santana, Lucy Arnaz, Martin Rivera, Christine Ebersol, Starship. Did you play with John Roth?
No, I actually played on a record. So I only Mickey Thomas and there's a very good friend of mine who sings in the band named Stephanie Calvert, and she brought, it was me and her and Mickey in the studio, so I didn't actually meet the other guys.
That's really cool, man.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, they're good guys.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Mickey Thomas is, gosh, still just mind-blowing singer.
He's also played with Aurea, who's a Portuguese pop star, Earl Turner, Lonnie Mizaluka, I'm sorry, right? Mizaluka?
Mizaluka. Yeah.
Mizaluka.
She's Filipino artist.
Taylor Dane, Frankie Marino, and David Foster, amongst many others. He's also played in some Broadway shows that run in Las Vegas, including The Addams Family and Surf the Musical. God, you are incredible. You're all over it. That is really tough. That's really difficult.
We'll play guitar for food.
Currently, John's playing and touring with the Righteous Brothers, and he's also with Zeppelin USA. We're going to talk about both of those bands. John, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Man, Craig, I'm thrilled to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So you started playing professionally at 19. How soon did you start touring after that, or was that was it?
No, I think I probably started touring when I was about 21. When I say I started playing professionally at 19, I just meant that when I got out of high school, I was working kind of retail jobs, and then I started playing in a band. And then around the time of 19, I was playing in a band that started working a lot. And it got to the point where I didn't have to go to the other job. So I left and ended up playing full time. It wasn't really a plan. It was just like one day I went, I don't need to go get up at 8 a.m. and go work at this record store and then go play a gig. I could just do the gigs. So when I say playing professionally since 19, I've been doing it for a living since I was 19, And then about 2 years later, I think was when I started touring. And that was with the Ford Blues Band, which is a band that was created by Patrick Ford, who's a great blues drummer and also runs a great blues record label in Northern California. And that band went all over the world. So that was my first touring experience. That's Robin Ford's brother, by the way.
I was going to ask that because I know he's got a bunch of brothers that are all involved in music.
Yeah, he has two brothers. He's got Mark, who's a virtuoso harmonica player, and then Robin, of course. Everybody knows Robin. And then Patrick is a great blues drummer. He played with Musselwhite. He played with Witherspoon and all these guys. And he has a band. He still, to this day, has the Ford Blues Band. But Patrick works a lot in Europe. And, out of the country, they tour a lot still. So that was I was 21, I think, when I started touring. That was a long way to answer your question. But
no,
I think
it
was 20 when I hit the road, yeah.
I had Robin on the show a while back, and he talked about the importance of playing with his brothers at a young age.
I heard it. I heard that show. It was fantastic.
Thanks. Okay, so did you have any like that was that always your plan to play guitar?
I didn't really have a plan as far as a career, but as soon as I discovered the guitar and figured out that I was good at it, and that I could make it work, that was all I wanted to do. So it wasn't really like I said, okay, I'm going to become a professional musician and just do this. It was just I just wanted to, whatever I had to do to just wake up every day and have nothing else on my plate except playing guitar. That was, there was no plan. I wish I could say that it was brilliant planning or anything. It just kind of happened that way. So I didn't really have a plan. I just knew I wanted to play all the time.
Did you like study formally? Because you're very well versed in theory.
Yeah, I had about eight years of guitar lessons with an instructor who was he lived in Santa Cruz, California, and he used to teach in Los Gatos. There used to be a music store. Los Gatos being my hometown, it's just a small town in between San Jose and Santa Cruz. And there was a music store there, and my mom went and signed me up for lessons. I was in the 6th grade. I ended up with, and luckily, just by fate, I happened to connect with the ultimate guitar teacher for me. We just hit it off from the first lesson, and he was like the Obi-Wan Kenobi, of guitar for me. Literally when I went to him, I didn't know how to hold a pick. And I spent 8 years with him, and he got me pretty well versed in music theory and reading music and different styles. And so, yeah, I had 8 years of lessons. I never went to a music school or anything. I took guitar lessons, and then I started playing in bands, and that was it.
You must be pretty disciplined, though, to do that.
I had. Oh man, that's all I did. I mean, all I did was all day long play guitar, like 8, 10, 12 hours. That's all I did. And it wasn't like, I felt like I had to do it. That's just all I wanted to do. I'm sure you probably heard that on every one of these podcasts, but that was it. That was
and
all I wanted to do was guitar all the time.
And it's, what? Somebody asked me, do you know Eugene Edwards?
I don't.
He's in California. He plays with God, I'm having such a brain fart. This is embarrassing. Pete Anderson's. My God. No, who did Pete used to play with? I'm having such a brain fart. Anyway, this is what happens when you meet 8 people a week. It's just like seriously, man, it's like literally packing stuff into a jar and the shit's just overflowed. Anyway, Eugene, now I even forgot why
Are you talking about Dwight Yoakam?
Yes, thank God. Thank you so much. Yeah, he plays with
He's played a lot of people.
Yeah, now I forgot why I brought up Eugene, which is even more embarrassing. But
you said he was from California.
No, he asked me, this is what it was. Thank you. He said to me at the end of the interview, he goes, I want to ask you a couple of questions because how are you different 500 interviews in? And the biggest way I'm different is the total appreciation and value I have that I've been validated hundreds of times over by musicians like you of how important it is to do the thing that makes you happy. And
it's huge, man. And I believe that it keeps us young. You know, I mean, we know so many musicians who are older, but you know they're young. They're young at heart. I've played with guys who are, you know, literally retirement age. I mean, you know, Bill Medley, 78. I'm playing with him now. He's like a kid, man. I mean, you know, we try to keep up with him, and I believe it's the music. I think it keeps us young. I do.
That's awesome. Well, and I told you before we started, just to let everybody know, John looks at least 20 years younger than he is, man. So whatever you're doing, you know, guitar cream or whatever.
87.
You look great, dude.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome. What was your first gig with like an established artist? Who was that?
Well, I mentioned the Ford Blues Band before. I guess established artists could mean different things to different people. To me, there were some blues people that I got to play with, playing with Pat Ford's band that I considered to be established artists. Like Jimmy Witherspoon was a hero of mine, and I got to do some gigs with him. And it was my early 20s, you know. Lowell Fulson, we backed up Luther Tucker. We would fly over to you know, Norway or somewhere in Europe, and then we would, you know, be the house band for these guys on gigs. We had to rehearse with them. There was some blues guys that I played with early on that were established artists. If you're talking about like household name artists, that probably would have been well, the Grateful Dead guys, you know.
Oh my God,
like Vince and Phil. But when I came here to Vegas, my first sort of marquee gig that I got in Vegas was Wayne Newton. And that's a name that everybody knows. So that was about 2007. And so that was one where I would go home and everybody would want to ask me about Wayne Newton, you know.
I would imagine he's been around so long and he's, you know, been good at promoting himself. So I'm sure people have a lot of curiosity. You know,
he's still playing. He's still doing it.
One thing that's a really huge feather in your cap, you know, now that I think about it again, Pat Ford, you know, Robin being his brother, his standard of what he's used to in a blues guitar player is really high. That you got that gig at 21 says a hell of a lot about what your abilities are.
Well, you know, I was a huge fan of the Charles Ford Band, and if you're not familiar with them, that was the band that those 3 brothers had when they were teenagers, you know, and they did an album on Art Hooley Records it's really good. We're checking out. Robin's, you know, like 19 or something and playing a big, you know, Super 400 jazz guitar. And I was a huge fan of the Charles Ford Band. I went to see them when I was in high school. I saw them at a blues festival. Robin was, you know, one of my very favorite guitar players. And so, man, and Pat's work, like you said, not only Robin, but he said, you know, Garth Weber and, you know, Volker Striffler is with him now. He's had a run of great guitar players. So for me to be asked to play in Robin Ford's brother's band, you know, after growing up playing with Robin, that was pretty mind blowing for me because you know, Robin's one of my very favorite players, and back then was the man, you know, for me.
Yeah, but like I said, it says a hell of a lot about your capability at such a young age too, man.
Well, I think maybe the fact that I was well versed in the way that they did the blues.
Yeah, that's right. Because
you know, it was blues, but there was a little bit of jazz. Yeah, so I probably had some of that sound in my playing, and he would have Robin kind of guest on his records and stuff, and then the guitar players that he got after me, there was a guy, Garth Weber, who came in. He was very well versed in that Robin style, and so I think Pat might have heard that in me. It was probably real obvious to him that I was a huge fan of his brother,
Yeah.
And I think he just probably fit into his musical vibe.
What made you move to Vegas? You did that in 2006.
Okay, so what happened was there was a buddy of mine in San Jose, a great guitar player, singer named Gene Siegel, who lives in Southern California now. And I knew him in San Jose. We were playing around in bands together around town. He moved to LA, and we kind of stayed in touch. And I was telling him, for years, I was saying, yeah, I might be about done with San Jose. I might want to move down to LA. That was sort of the plan, the original plan. And we would touch base once a year. So he called me late in summer of 2004. I think it was like August or something like that. And he said, "Hey man, are you still thinking about moving to LA?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And also, by the way, having Lyle down there who said, "Hey man, if you move to town, I could refer you on some things," and that was huge to me.
Yeah.
And so, in my mind, I thought I'm gonna bust out and go down to LA at some point. And so, Gene called me out of the blue one day, and he said, "LA," and I said, "Well, if something comes up, I would move." And he said, "I'm playing with a cover band at the Mirage in Vegas, and we just signed a contract. It's gonna be 5 nights a week, every week." And he says, "I can't do all of it. Would you be interested in maybe splitting the gig with me?" So I flew out there and I met the band. It was, it was a cover band playing in a lounge at the Mirage, back when they had live music. And so at the band, spent a couple weeks playing with them, made friends. It was great. Everything was great. And long story short, Gene basically gave me his gig. He said, "Hey man, look, why don't you just do it, because I can't be in Vegas. I'm busy in LA." He says, "Why don't you just take the gig?" And I had no reason that I couldn't be in Vegas. So for a while I was commuting back and forth to, I was living in Campbell, which is next to Los Gatos. It's a little suburb of San Jose. And so I would drive out here and play the week and then drive home on the weekend.
Oh, wow.
But so I actually, the short answer to your question is I had a gig. It was 5 nights a week. We were staying at the hotel. We were eating for free. It was like a paid vacation,
Wow.
I didn't know anybody here. Yeah, I didn't know anybody here. I had no plan. I just thought, and the money was good, and I thought, cool, man, I'll go out and, get out of town and play, and then eventually end up in LA. That was the plan.
That's wild. Was that weird living in a hotel? I guess if you're living in you probably had a really nice room in this hotel in a nice place. It's probably not weird at all, is it?
No, it wasn't. It was great, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, the Mirage was a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
The rooms were great. We got to eat for free, and the money was good. And it was 5 nights a week, every single week. And we were done playing by, about 9:30. And, we would all get together and go bowling or go find restaurants or whatever. And it was literally like being paid to be on vacation, and
Yeah.
we played just a couple of sets. It was like, maybe 2-3 hours a night,
Wow.
It was super easy gig. And it was cover stuff. It was like classic rock and some top 40 and stuff, which I hadn't really done a lot of that. I did a little bit of it in San Jose, but I dove in head first on this gig, like in the cover band thing.
What happened after that? What was the trajectory? How long did that go for?
Well, I played with that band almost 3 years, I guess. And by the way, I moved here in 2006, but I was going back and forth since late 2004 to California. And
oh, okay.
What happened?
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I actually did move to LA because my uncle had a house there that I rented, and so I moved from San Jose down to Santa Clarita, kind of north of LA. And so what I did was I basically took care of his house on the weekends, and then I would drive 4 hours to Vegas on Sunday, and we would play the week, and then Thursday night I would drive back and I would hang in LA for the weekend. But I never did anything in LA, I mean, I would hang out, I'd go see Lyle, or I'd go to I just home and mowed lawns on the weekend, really. And So from late 2004 till 2006, I had a California ID, and I was back and forth, and I was basically working in Vegas and living in California. And then about in 2006, everything I was doing was in Vegas, and it just didn't make sense to pay 2 rents and drive back and forth, and I was getting sick of that. So I decided to finally. Oh, and the other thing was the band had signed a new contract. And one of the stipulations was, we're going to give you some more money, but you guys have to get apartments. No more hotel rooms.
Too bad. The gravy train stopped. Yeah, that's a pretty sweet gig, man, where you got no rent.
Oh man, it was insane. And then even when I finally moved here, I ended up sharing a house with a couple of other musicians here in town. They played in another band that worked in the same room as us, and when you're born and raised in California and then you come to Vegas and you realize how inexpensive it is to live here. Yeah. It's a real eye opener, And I was living in a really nice house with a guitar player friend of mine and a drummer. And I had a casita to myself, and we had this big 5-bedroom house, and I was paying, not much at all. Yeah. And I had come from paying a lot of California money, man, to have a little 1-bedroom apartment, or my uncle's place, which was a small more house, So that was, and then I thought, man, well, and there's no state tax in Nevada. Yeah. It was just immediately saved money. So I moved here officially in 2006. Very
cool. Yeah, I've talked to so many players who've moved to Vegas, and for that reason, many of them. Yeah.
I love California. I miss the Bay Area, but the cost of living, especially for musicians, it's just insane. I mean, unless you live in a house with 8 other musicians, it's just really hard. Or if you bought a house or inherited a house, decades ago. Other than that, who can afford it? I just don't understand how people make it work. Guys like Lyle, Lyle's lived there. He moved there a long time ago, and he established himself early. And that's the way you do it, is if you did it back before everything skyrocketed.
Yeah, I totally get it. Are you single or?
No, I'm married. I've been married. Our 9-year anniversary will be in August.
Dude, happy anniversary! That's very cool.
Thanks.
So you met your wife probably right after you moved.
I did. I met my wife here, and the band that I was playing with that I just told you about, we moved from the Mirage over to the Bellagio.
Oh, that's a beautiful hotel, man. I've actually stayed there. Holy shit!
It's a beautiful hotel, and you know where the water show is, right?
Yeah,
the big fountain.
Sure do.
They play the music and stuff. So there used to be a lounge right, on the other side of that water show with a patio and all this stuff. Yeah. And it was called the Fontana Bar.
Yeah, I had drinks there with my wife, and we watched the water thing.
Yep. Okay, so that room, that was where I was playing with the band. The band was called Clockwork, by the way. And so I was playing the Fontana Bar, and Jen, my wife, was waitressing in the Fontana Bar, and that was how we met.
That's really cool.
Met my wife doing the gig. I was extremely lucky. And when I moved here, I had when I left the Bay Area, I had just gotten out of this really toxic relationship, and I moved here, and I dated a few girls, and it was just one train wreck after another, man. I mean, you name it, alcoholic, stripper, single mom. I had the sample platter of Vegas.
Did you ever hit the triple, like an alcoholic, stripper, single mom all at once?
I didn't stick around long enough to find out, but I'll bet you there were some skeletons in the closet. So I had pretty much sworn off dating at that point. I got a cat, and I thought, I'm just going to be a single guy, and I'm just going to play guitar all day. And of course, like my dad used to say, if you want it to rain, you got to wash your car. And so when I stopped caring about dating and meeting women and stuff, that was when I met my wife. And to meet, somebody with their head screwed on straight in Vegas, I was extremely lucky. Of course, she's from Minneapolis, so we both kind of came from other places, she and so I just got so lucky.
That's cool, man. Congratulations. It's cool also to look and fit and how, like that's the last thing you were expecting, and then you move and you meet your wife. That's a nice thing to look back on.
Honestly, didn't think I was married. My sister used to say that I was a a confirmed bachelor. You know, I was fine with it. I'd be single the rest of my life. I don't care. You know,
sure.
Play guitar, you know, and date once in a while or something. But I didn't actually ever see myself being married until I met my wife, and then all of a sudden I went, you know, I can't be away from her, you know. And
that's cool, man. Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, not planned at all. I never in my mind was looking for a wife ever, and then I met Jennifer.
Well, dude, congratulations to both of you guys. That's really nice. Thank you for telling me that story. Hey, so I'm gonna name some artists that you've played with. You could tell me like how you got the gig, how that came about, and then if you have a cool or interesting story about working with them. Man, let's start with John Lee Hooker.
Oh man, the Hook, John Lee. So when you live in the Bay Area, or back then in like the late 80s and 90s, when you're living in the Bay Area and you're playing in and around the blues scene, you were bound to run into John Lee Hooker. He had two houses in the Bay Area. One of them was in Redwood City, which was about half an hour north of where I lived. And so I I knew all the guys in his band, so he would just come down and sit in. I mean, he would be a special guest on shows we would play. And then other times I'd be playing somewhere and he would just walk in with like his posse, you know, and sit in, you know, and of course, and it was like the president showing up or something. It was just like when he came in the room, you know, everything stopped. And so I was involved in many shows where he was a special guest or would literally just drop in and come up and sing. And also I was invited to his house several times. And he had this house in Redwood City, and he was just always holding court, man. He would invite everybody over. All the musicians would go over and hang. There was food, and he would be sitting. I'll never forget this, but he would be sitting on his bed in his bedroom, like watching the Giants game in a suit.
I was going to ask you, when he showed up, was he always pimped out? Because to
the nines, man.
Really?
It looked like he was getting ready to go on stage.
That's cool.
3-piece suit. He had these socks with stars on them, the hat.
Yeah,
you know, and he would sit on the bed, and he would have hot chicks all around him, and he would watch the Giants game, and you would just kind of go in and kiss the ring, but you know, like I'd get called to go have dinner at John Lee Hooker's house, and you know, that's like the White House calling, you know, it's like I'm going, you know, and I got to do that a few times, but I'll tell you one of my favorite Hooker stories. I remember I did this gig in Berkeley. There was a place there called Larry Blake's, which was a great blues venue in Berkeley, and I was doing a gig there with a singer named Vala Cupp, and she was in John Lee Hooker's band. In fact, I just remember now that Tom Politzer, who's the tenor sax player from Tower of Power, he was on the gig with me. And again, I was probably early 20s or something like that. And John Lee Hooker showed up, and Greg Allman showed up.
Wow.
And they both sat in, man. I got to play Statesboro Blues with Greg Allman, and then, you know, Hooker came up and did a few songs. And one of the coolest moments of my life, John Lee like walked over to me after a tune, and he was getting ready to come up and sing, and he walked over and he reached his hand out to shake my hand, and he looked right in my face, and he went, "You bad."
That is really freaking cool, man.
And that was the coolest.
Oh my God.
It was the coolest moment. You bad.
You bad.
And from that moment on, I would get invited to the house, and I was really good friends with all the guys in his band. I was not in his band. I just got to play some gigs with him around town, basically.
So you were playing like lead guitar Greg Allman. I'm sorry. I think.
Yeah, I got to play Statesboro Blues.
That's incredible. What was that like?
Yeah, that was unbelievable, man. I mean, he sat down at this B3, and we played 2 or 3 songs, and I just remember when he sang, man, like the hair on my arms stood up, man. It was just, his voice was just, it just sounded like those records, man. And he, you know, he was super nice. He was real quiet. He didn't say a whole lot, but he came up and just floored everybody, you know. And of course, we didn't know he was coming. You know, it's just like all of a sudden, holy shit, there's Greg Allman, you know.
You bad, man. I love that. That is so cool. Let me write that down.
Shit on this?
You could curse to your heart's content. You could say
Okay,
anything you want. You could say shit, piss, fuck, I mean, whatever. Makes you float your boat, man. Yeah. I had this. I remember I had this teacher, man. I took a business law class. I don't know why I remember this. And he was like the first day, and he was like, close the door. And he was like, made someone get up and close the door, somebody wouldn't move. He goes, I'll do it myself. And he closed the door and he goes, now I could fucking curse in here. It was like and this is back in the, early 80s. So it was like still a little it was like a little racy for that time, it was like, or mid 80s. Like, yeah, that was really cool.
That reminds me of another quick little hooker thing. I'll never forget one time I did a show, I think it was at the Fillmore in San Francisco. And I might have been with Charlie Musselwhite at the time. I can't remember, but it was at the Keystone Palo Alto. That's right. And we were all backstage, and somebody was smoking weed in the dressing room, and Hooker walked in to the dressing room, and he kind of smelled, and he looked around, and he said, "Somebody's smoking some shit in here." I just remembered that. That was sort of
smoking some shit in here. What was Charlie Musselwhite? What I saw him in concert, like here in Tampa, like ages ago. What was he was great. Yeah. I mean, a great performer.
Man, Charlie, that was one of the high points for me, as a player. And again, it's sort of like what we were saying with the Ford Blues Band, because the history of guitar players that Charlie's had.
Mike Bloomfield.
And Mike Bloomfield, exactly. The guy played. I mean, he's played with everybody.
Yeah.
But the guys that he was in a band with, Bloomfield, Harvey Mandel, he played. Robin was on some of his records. I mean, he's played with all his guitar players. Kid Anderson, Kirky Fletcher. He's had some incredible guitar players in his band. So
Elvin Bishop too, I think, right?
Oh, he's real tight with Elvin. Yeah, he so to be considered by a guy who's had that level of musicianship in his band was mind blowing, and that kind of came about through the Ford Blues Band as well, because he was looking for a guitar player, and I was playing a show with the Ford Blues Band somewhere up in Northern California, and Charlie's wife Henrietta was at the show, and they were looking for a guitar player at the time. They had this band. He had the same band together with like some Chicago guys for like 10 years or something, and he was looking to hire a bunch of new players who could do some other styles, because he was starting to get into the Buena Vista Social Club thing, getting into the Cuban kind of thing, and he wanted to incorporate that into his music. So he wanted to find some players who could do some other styles. And I literally just ran into Henrietta at a show, and she saw me play with Pat Ford's band. And then next thing you know, I got the call, and I found out later that they had been auditioning people, and a lot of players were trying to get that gig, and it literally just fell into my lap. And Charlie he's just the greatest guy in the world, man. And I literally went all over the world with him. I got to play on one of his records. There's an album that he did in 1999. It was called Continental Drifter, and I'm on that record. And it was nominated for a Grammy, which was kind of cool. And
really cool.
Yeah, and so I was in his band for a little over 5 years, and he's a real special, not only player, but just a person. He's just the sweetest guy you'll ever meet, and I really learned a lot being in his band, especially about being on the road, and he's a great guy, man. It was a real honor to play with Charlie for close to 6 years.
What was some of the top two or three things that you learned, for example?
Just how to kind of keep myself together, like health wise on the road.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
it's not something you think about that you need to do that, and it's
it sounds like silly, but
it's critically important.
Yeah, I was like 30. I don't know, maybe 31 or how old was I when I got the Charlie gig? I was a little over 30. I was in my early 30s when I played with Charlie, and man, we went everywhere. We would leave and be gone for a month, and we would just go all over the place. So you kind of have to learn how to take care of yourself and not eat a bunch of crap and wear yourself down on the road. Also, the consistency thing, that was a huge part of playing in Charlie's band, because we would just night after night we were playing, and it taught me how to, no matter what's going on, the roof could be on fire above me, like it's time to play, and you do 100%. There's no no distractions or anything. No matter what's going on, no matter how long you've been driving, no matter the fact that you haven't had breakfast or lunch, time to play. You just kind of snap into this thing where you just you know, and Charlie's like that. No matter what's going on, man, he consistently plays his ass off, and it kind of instilled in me a thing where, you know, showtime. Like, no matter what's happening, it's time to play. All the other stuff gets put aside, and you bring it, you know, for 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever, you know. So that was a huge lesson I learned, mainly because he toured so much. I mean, you know, he's still, to this day, he's out with Ben Harper. They tour a lot. He's out with his band. He's a road dog, that guy.
It's amazing that, though, that he was kind enough to teach you stuff about staying healthy. You know, that's a really important thing. And especially now when you're older, you're like, you realize how important it was. But back then you're thinking you know, when you're that age, you're like, you know, nothing could harm you, you know?
Well, he didn't really teach me anything, but just observing and watching how, you know, like, when you know, anybody that knows Charlie or knows of Charlie knows that at one time he was a drinker of legendary proportions. I mean, and when I met him, he was clean and sober, and you know, and he had put all that behind him. But, you know, there's stories, everybody's got stories about him back in the day when he was drinking, and he quit drinking. He became a vegetarian. He was doing yoga. He was, you know, really aware of himself. And this is a guy who pushed himself as hard as you can push yourself, and literally, you know, kind of saved his own life, you know. And that was very inspiring to me. I'm sure we talked about stuff, but it wasn't necessarily that he would teach me anything. I would just sort of observe how he kept it together on the road. He was, you know, much older than me, but he always, you know, no matter what was going on, man, when it came time to play, he could have had the flu, or he could have, you know, not slept or had a bad day. He got up there, man, and it was as good as it was last night. And so it was sort of an implied lesson, if you will.
Well, kudos to you for being smart enough to having the awareness enough at that young of an age to absorb that, because that's not, you know, that's not, and like you, and I'm assuming, because you said you were at the gym yourself just a little while ago, so I'm assuming you've taken good care of yourself over the years as well.
Yeah, I try to. I'm doing my best. I've never done any drugs. I smoked a little bit of pot in high school, and that was the beginning and end of my drug career. I've never done any drugs.
Wow, that's great.
I've never. Now this one, I know this is on your list of questions, but I'll go ahead and say it now.
Yeah.
About something that would surprise people. I've never been drunk in my life.
Wow.
I've never been drunk. I've tasted alcohol. You know, I've had wine with dinner. I've tasted hard liquor. I've had beer. I hate beer. I've never drank to the point where I got drunk, and so I think that, and I have, you're right, I've always been into, you know, running and going to the gym and stuff. So I just like how I feel. It's not necessarily like trying to stave off age or anything. It's just,
no, but that's a byproduct. That's a natural byproduct.
Yeah,
for sure. It's funny. My
and
sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have.
Oh, no. So anyway, I think that probably helped me a lot, because I have a lot of friends who did it all the wrong way and are paying for it now, and I'm grateful that I never went down that road, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, you're not missing anything by never being drunk.
Oh, I know.
You've missed zero.
I know. I've been around alcohol most of my life. It was in my family.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah.
By the time I got old enough, and plus I was playing in bars when I was in high school. Like, you know, I was playing in bars at blues jams and stuff. And I was, you know, like, you know, playing professionally at 19, playing in places that were 21 and over. I was around drunk people all the time.
Yeah.
And when I got to be 21, and there was no like epiphany, or there was no religious experience or anything that, you know, a lot of people say, the first thing they say is, "Oh, you don't drink? Are you a Mormon?" or something like that. It's
not on the East Coast, they don't. Not on the East Coast, they don't say that. They don't know what Mormons are. The only reason I know is because I had some Mormon friends when I went out west and I met them. That's so funny. I grew up in New York City. I wouldn't know what a Mormon was.
What do they say there?
Right. I wouldn't. You know. Okay. I mean, I think I might have heard of it or something like that. That's really funny.
Are you Amish?
Yeah. That's our version of it.
Yeah. There was no. The only thing was when I got to be 21 and I I was able to drink, I just didn't want to do it because I had just seen nothing but negative stuff in my own house and around me in bars. And it's just, I never saw any good stuff come out of it. You know, it was always negative, and it was always people the next day making, you know, a mess of things or regretting it or whatever. And so I got old enough to drink it, and I just went, yeah, it's not for me. I have no problem with it. Most of my friends drink. I don't judge anybody. It's not my thing. You know?
Yeah. It's funny because but when my kids got older, they both worked in supermarkets. My older son he's 29 now, and my younger one is 27. And the first thing they both told us is, guys, you have, because we're not drink, you know, we'll have a drink on the weekend, like a drink, or maybe two max. I mean, and it's rare.
Yeah, right.
And when they were little, the kids, we didn't have, that was once a month. Now we have maybe a drink on the weekends because we got time and we're empty nesters. But they were like, oh my God, you have no idea how much people drink. And we'd be like, really? I mean, I honestly didn't know. And they were like, yeah, I have the same people come in every day and buy a 12-pack of beer. I'm like, holy shit, how the hell are they? Like, I couldn't, like, I'm in the gym every morning. Like, it's not, so I understand exactly, you know, it's just not,
it's just, I just like how I feel after I run.
Yeah.
I go lift at the gym. And the couple of times that I smoked pot, I just remember being totally disconnected from my guitar, and that I hated that. I hate not being connected to whatever I'm doing. You know.
Yeah.
I remember the very last time that I smoked weed, and I had this girlfriend at the time, and you know, she smoked pot, and she used to always get on my case because I never smoked pot with her, and I played at this. I had a band. This is a little interesting aside here, but I had a trio in high school, a fusion trio with Eric Kretz, and Eric Kretz is the drummer for Stone Temple Pilots.
Holy shit!
And Eric went to a high school in San Jose, and I was at Rolling Hills Junior High School, and he was at a school called Markham, and they were kind of across town from each other. And there was a bass player at my junior high school who I started playing with, and he said, man, I know this drummer, and you got to meet him. And we went over, and the three of us had this band, this fusion trio, and we would play, like, you know, whatever, Dixie Dregs, that kind of stuff at keg parties, you know, you know, for people who were slightly interested. You know, chicks were running for the exits, and you know, we're playing Brand X at a keg party. And so anyway, I remember I had this girlfriend, and she came with me to one of these keg parties, and it was New Year's Eve, and she was going, come on, you never smoked pot with me, and you know, fun and this and that. So I smoked some weed that night, and I got baked, and I remember down in my left hand, and it was like my head was in Miami or something. I was just not at all connected to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that was it, man. I just said, nah, this isn't for me, because I don't like not being connected to what I'm doing, especially when I'm playing the guitar, you know?
No, I like being present. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how diverse you are, that you had this fusion band that you were picked up by Charlie to do because of the Latin skills, your blues skill. I mean, it's really incredibly impressive, man.
I should add an addendum to that, but he didn't choose me because of the Latin thing, but his musical tastes were going in different directions, and he's always been a huge jazz fan, and he just decided that he had played straight up Chicago blues with the same three guys for like 10 years, and he was really discovering like Eliades Ochoa and the social and all the kind of Cuban music, and he was really into jazz, and he just decided that he wanted to get some people in his band that could play some different styles, you know. And we did end up playing some of the Cuban stuff, which was really fun. But he wanted to be able to throw something at the band and say, hey man, let's do this Kenny Burrell tune or something, and not go to pieces, you know. And it wasn't just me. He hired the keyboard player and the drummer, you know, they were well versed in jazz and other styles of music. And he just wanted some versatility, you know.
Yeah, but the fact that you could do all this is like at a master level. I mean, that's really does say a lot. I can see why Lyle, you know.
Oh,
no, I mean that's really like not easy to do all that, man.
It's hard. The thing is I've always just listened to all kinds of music, and I credit my guitar teacher with that, because when I went to him, I was only into rock music, Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, AC/DC, that was the only music I knew. And he not only taught me, to play and harmony and theory and all that stuff, but he also opened my head up to listening to music. And he had me, in junior high school, he had me listening to Joe Pass and John McLaughlin and Chet Atkins and Hank Garland and Charlie Christian. I mean, I was a teenager, man. I was like in 7th, 8th grade, and I was just all over. Every week he'd bring in an album for me. It was completely different than the previous week, and he really, more than anything, more than even the guitar thing, he opened my head up to music. And so, I've always been all over the map musically, and to me, I love Howlin' Wolf just as much as I love Soundgarden. I love, all kinds of music, and I'm fascinated by it, and I kind of dabble in everything. I sort of wish I could focus on one style, because I think I could be really good at it, but it has served me well in terms of,
gigs. Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. But again, it wasn't planned. It wasn't, I'm going to learn a bunch of styles so I can do different gigs. I just love all kinds of music. And so I've been lucky enough to be asked to play different styles. And it's fun because it's never boring. Every week is a new kind of adventure,
That's one of the common traits amongst the successful musicians, is that everything they're not anchored on one, with like you got blues guys, all they're playing is blues for the most part, but the top sidemen like yourself, they're sponges for every music, and they genuinely enjoy different things. I've noticed that.
Right, and I think there's a huge who just genuinely, put on weird music, diverse, music because they enjoy it, and I think when you love the music, it translates to the gig, and I know a lot of people in Vegas. When I moved to Vegas, I assumed everybody here could play every style of music. It didn't occur to me, and I realized that a lot of players here kind of specialize in a certain thing. But they would always, oh yeah, man, I'll do a rock gig, and then they're sitting there reading it like a jazz gig or something, staring at a book, playing, Metallica or something, and I can always spot people who really genuinely love the music and people who are just doing it to get gigs,
Yeah.
And for me, I had no plan as far as gigs. I just love the music and love playing a lot of things, and I have musical ADD all over the map, but it's definitely helped me along the way because I've found myself in very radically different scenarios playing music that I love, so I've been very blessed.
That you wouldn't be in demand for if you not had that skill set either, which is great.
Yeah, and I remember at the time, specifically with the Musselwhite gig, there were some players who really wanted that gig at the time, and these were hardcore 24/7 blues players, much more qualified than myself. And to be honest with you, when I was hired to play with Charlie, there was some blowback from that, from some of the blues purists, man. Oh man, he's a rock player,
Really?
He's not a blues guy. Yeah, that's sort of a common thing in the blues world, It's like, he's a rock guy, because you play something other than, Freddie King Licks or whatever. And, and I'm a blues fan, but it's one of many styles of music that I love. And there were people who felt like, I'm not going to name names or anything, but I heard later that there were people who were pretty bent that I got hired to do this. Like, what's he doing hiring a rock guy on the gig? But then it was pretty obvious later with the music and what he was doing at the shows that he wanted to kind of spread his wings a bit, stylistically. And so I was happy to be hired for that reason.
Yeah.
There were much better blues players than me, but I mean, I could play enough blues to make Charlie happy, but then we could also turn a jazz tune or something, and it was so much fun.
It's funny how people get caught up in like what they perceive as competition sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't think like no matter what you're doing, there's enough things in the world, and I know this from coming out of the business world, but it's been proven here that there's room for everybody. If you're striking a chord with your audience, you know, whether that audience is business, music, whatever, there's room, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And music is not a sport to me. I've never, ever been competitive.
Yeah.
I've always, you know, it's not like you have to jump higher than somebody or play faster than somebody. I feel like you just said, there's always room for one more, you know, and I love, you know, I have a lot of friends here in Vegas who I love and support, who are incredible players, and I recommend them for gigs. They would recommend me for gigs.
Sure.
I try and just be around those kind of players. I don't get into the competitive thing. And if I smell it, if I sense it, I just go the other way, man. I love music too much to turn it into a competition, and I would rather not have any gigs and sit here in my little room and play guitar because I love it. Because I'm even though I do it for a living and I'm a you know, professional musician, you know, to me, I still love to play. I love music, and I'm not going to let it be ruined by that, you know?
Yeah.
I've never been competitive and at all. And so I have kind of run into that over the years, you know, where people just get a little resentful because you got the call and they didn't, or their friend didn't, or whatever. And, you know, just go, man, I mean, there are other gigs, you know?
Yeah.
I was honored to get that gig, but there are other gigs where I go, God, I'd love to have that gig, but this guy's great, you know?
Sure.
I know it's never a competition, man. It's just, I feel like you just kind of land in the thing you're supposed to be in at the time.
That's another thing I've learned from doing these. It was kind of something I was in transition to gravitating towards, is to doing things organically and letting sort of things what's meant to be, quote unquote, and be much more accepting of that. And I've found through doing this that when you're in the right spot, the right things sort of happen.
Yeah.
And you're doing it organically for the love of it, or, you know, it's if that's where you're supposed to be, whoever makes that decision, right? The universe or whatever, right? You know, that's you know, things happen organically. So
I think so. I think so. And I think if you know, if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, I think that people pick up on that.
Yeah.
And you know, it'll lead to things that you're not maybe expecting are going to happen, you know?
Totally.
And then you find yourself in a situation where, man, I didn't in a million years think I'd be, you know, playing in this band or doing this music. I'm having a ball, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that.
But yeah, it is kismet for sure.
Hey, talk about working with Phil Lesh. How did that come about?
Okay, so I first of all, I'll go back to Vince Welnick. Vince Welnick was the Grateful Dead's last keyboard player before Jerry passed. And,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not like a huge
Vince,
Deadhead. I know like Pigpen, and I know. I didn't know Vince Welnick. I just not that big of a Deadhead.
Well, he was in, you know, for a short time near the end. I don't remember. I mean, it might have been, you know, 5 years, I think, that he was in or something. But he was the last keyboardist they hired. They went through a period where they were using Bruce Hornsby and some other keyboard players. Now, Vince came from the Tubes. Vince was in the Tubes, and
I didn't know that.
you know, like for instance, you know Tubes, right? You familiar with them?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so you know that song "She's a Beauty."
Yeah, yes.
I think Lukather played on that guitar.
Yeah, he did.
Played guitar.
He talked about that on his interview. Actually, that was fun.
Oh, did?
Yeah.
I gotta listen to that one. Okay, so Vince, there's a section in the middle where it breaks down to this really cool little da-da-da-da-da-da, this little synth thing. That's Vince. And Vince would always put those little sections in the song. Anytime you're listening to the Tubes, you hear a classical kind of vibe with the keyboard. That was always Vince. And so I grew up a fan of Tubes, and so I knew Vince. And then he ended up with the Grateful Dead gig, and then Jerry passed, which I think was in about 96, 97. I don't remember the exact year that Jerry passed now, but he after Jerry passed, Vince formed a band called the Missing Man Formation, and it was and they were out playing the Dead scene, and the original incarnation of that band had a guy named Steve Kimmock on guitar, who is if you're familiar at all with the jam band scene, he's the guitar player, and you know, he's sort of heir apparent to Jerry Garcia, you know, just a master player, and was a friend of Jerry's and had Jerry's endorsement and all that stuff. So Steve was the guitar player in Vince's band. And then at some point, Steve left, and Vince put a whole new band together, and he had auditions. And I'm not sure, I don't even remember how he got my name or number, but I ended up going up and auditioning, and I joined Missing Man Formation, and I played for a few years with them, and we used to tour around doing
full time.
The
I mean, was that a full time gig or?
Well, I was doing that in addition to playing with Charlie Musselwhite.
Oh,
so I was kind of doing both.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing both at the time. And Vince didn't work a lot, but sometimes we would go out on the road, for a couple of weeks or whatever, and we would tour around doing jam band festivals and stuff. So anyway, I was with Vince's band for a couple of years, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and then so at some point, Phil Lesh was holding auditions for guitar players for Phil and Friends, and Phil's thing he still does, called Phil and Friends.
Yeah.
And they were looking for guitar players, and they were looking for tons of musicians. So they put calls out, and I got called to go up and audition at the Grateful Dead compound, the Nerve Center, the headquarters, which is up in Novato, California. It's an old Coca-Cola bottling plant. This huge building where they've got a studio, they've got the vault with all the recordings, they've got all their merchandise.
Wow.
Everything is up there, and so. Basically, I auditioned for Phil and Friends, but the audition consisted of 3 solid days at the Grateful Dead headquarters, working with Phil and rehearsing and learning tunes and putting together a whole show's worth of music. And so that was 3 solid days that I spent playing with Phil. And ultimately, I didn't get picked. Oh, and of course, this is funny too. I looked at, there was a list of the guitar players that they had coming up after me. Robin Ford, Jimmy Herring, John Scofield. So I looked at that list and I went, well, this is fun,
Wait a minute. So everybody had first of all, did you know it would be 3 days? Did they tell you, hey, you'll be here for 3 days?
They explained it to me. They said, Phil really wants to spend 3 days, and they picked musicians for each instrument, and they would just put a band together, and then wow. Phil we would spend 3 days playing and kind of getting to know each other and rehearsing and eating lunch and just hanging. And then he would wait a week or two, and he'd bring a whole other group in, and he would do it all over again. And he did that for a long time. And then he handpicked all the players that he liked the best from those from that whole run, and then put the band together. And the list of guitar players that have played with Phil and Friends is pretty mind blowing, man. Warren Haynes, I mean, you name it, man. All the cats came up there and had a turn, and so I was just lucky to get called, man. But I didn't actually get to ever play with Phil and Friends that I spent with him, man. I really got an education in that music, and I was a Grateful Dead fan, but I wasn't, until I played with Vince, I wasn't that deep into it. And by the time
it's like a lifestyle, man. It's not really just like a fan. It's like living on a boat. You got you got to be really into that lifestyle,
Yeah, you're right. There's not really such thing as the casual Dead fan. You're either into it, you either get it or you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan, but that was through Vince. And so by the time I got to play with Phil, which was a couple of years after the Vince thing, I was very familiar with the music and the approach. But I'll tell you what, it was an education. I learned some things from Phil that I never before or since have heard anybody. He has his own way of looking at things, man, musically, and it was a really, really cool experience.
Can you give an example?
I didn't get to Yes. Okay. So the band was me and another guitar player, and a bass player and a keyboard player and a drummer. Oh, I'm sorry, Phil was playing bass. What am I saying? And then the drummer. And so we would play, and we would do these tunes, and of course everybody played long solos, and so normally in every band that I've been in, you step up and you wail, you play a loud solo, and then you step back and you turn down and you play rhythm while the next person is soloing. And we were all doing that, and Phil stopped us at one point and he said, "Hey man, look," he says, "when he's soloing, you continue to play. Like, don't back off. Don't just sit there and comp. I want you to interact, man. I want you to play along with him. And the way that he described it was, he said, it's like Dixieland music, where everybody's playing at once, but nobody's getting in each other's way, and you're just sort of complimenting what the other guy is doing, and then it all kind of comes together like this. And that's really, that was a huge thing for me when he compared it to Dixieland, and told me not to. Well, not just me, but the keyboard player and the other guitar player were told, man, don't turn down and just comp chords behind the solo. Like, I want you to keep playing. You know, obviously he's the focal point, but I want you to compliment him with some stuff, you know, and the him saying that it was like Dixieland music really, I went home that night going, wow. Like, all of a sudden when I would listen to the Dead, it all made sense, because it sounded, you know, people make fun of them. They go, oh man, they're all noodling at the same time. But that was how they saw it. You know, they saw it as Dixieland music. Yeah. And everybody's playing at once, and it's not just like, oh, they're stoned and they're just all noodling. It's a concept, man. It's a mindset for sure.
Since you mentioned it, was there weed going around?
Plus, he was the nicest guy in the world. There was a bit of weed. Yeah. I was the only one not smoking.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the place where there's lots of freaking bong loads, man.
Oh, dude, when I played with Vince, and he would introduce the band, he would say, "And on guitar over here, John Wedemeyer."
That's so funny, and everybody clapped. I went crazy, I'm sure.
And I was the only person in the building that didn't smoke pot.
That is so funny.
But it was about music, man. It really was. And I love the fact that because I thought, man, I'm pretty square. I'm going in, I kind of looked like this. I had short hair, and, you know, and I used to kind of dress like way nicer than you needed to. You know, those guys would show up in their pajamas or in cutoffs or whatever, and I would always wear like a gauge. Yeah. Some nice jeans or whatever. I didn't fit in at all. But the fact that they welcomed me and had me in just is a testament to it being all about the music with them. You know, it really wasn't. I thought, man, when they find out I'm gonna smoke pot, I'm gonna be out of this band. You know, they didn't care.
First time someone's gotten fired for not doing drugs.
I've heard of that happening.
Yeah, no, I actually have too, to be honest. You know, I think with a lot of people, it is about, like, I interviewed, you know, the band Korn.
Yeah.
So I interviewed Ray Luzier, the drummer, and he said the same thing. He's got no tattoos, like military short hair, and he goes, look, I thought this was just kind of a joke sort of thing, and then he's been the drummer there for years, you know. Yeah. And so I think it's about the music for most of the people that are serious musicians. Yeah, you got some guys. I don't know nowadays if that's too prevalent anymore. You can't really be a druggie and survive in the music business.
Yeah, there's still people that dabble in it, but most of the people that I've run into who used to do that thing have gotten it together, and
it got sober. And
you know, at our age, man, it's like vitality. You know,
it's like, tough enough being sober, living through your day. I don't know how people.
You know, that's a very good point, man. It's hard enough to stick around when you're doing all the right stuff. You know?
Right. I don't have no idea how people do that, man.
I'm not tempting fate, man.
No, I just don't get
it.
But
I've always been that guy in every band that I've ever been in. I look like, you know, I look like I should be selling real estate or something. I don't look like I fit in with every band I've ever been in.
Hey,
but you know,
speak softly and let your guitar do your talking for you, man.
I never got the uniform when I started playing guitar. You know, I never had
class.
the long hair. I did have long hair for a period of time in junior high school because, you know, I was into Led Zeppelin, and I figured, you know, you got to have long hair, you know. And that was around the time in high school when I tried weed, and, you know, I thought I got to do all this stuff, right? I'm a guitar player, and then after a while, not for me, you know.
Good for you. Give you all the credit.
Like I'm selling insurance.
I saw the Dead in concert in 1983, I think. It was pretty amazing. It was. I'm not a Deadhead. It was. What's that?
Were they on that night? Was it a good night?
It was incredible. It was. I took acid that night. It was the one and only time I tripped on acid. It was. I mean, the whole night was pretty.
Maybe I should ask you some questions.
No, it was pretty. I mean, it was just like, it was wild. I felt like everybody should do it because it was such a mind challenge, you know. But like, because you started seeing shit and you had to like tell yourself it's the drugs, not like, you know, the stage really isn't floating, man. You know, it's just like, you know.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, this is a real test, but I was always up in my head anyway back then. So it was like I was talking with myself, but it was interesting. It was a great show, to be honest with you.
Oh God, man. I never got to see the, and I remember one time somebody gave me a hit of acid. I think it was in junior high school or something. And I took it home and I stared at it, and it was a little square piece of paper with a blue dragon. And I sat home, man, and I had a magnifying glass, and I was looking at it, and I was scared to death of it, man. And I had it,
as you should be,
around in my wallet. And then I gave it to somebody, and I just didn't want to do it, man. I was terrified of it.
Yeah. Like I said, I did it once. I don't like messing with my mind that much, It was just an experiment. Let's talk about.
Yeah, no, it was being in that scene for a while, man, and being clean and sober. It was interesting. It was a lot of fun. A lot of good people watching.
That's funny. Yeah, it was like going to Washington Square Park and sitting down and watching just people watching. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Talk about David Foster. What'd you do with David?
Okay, so David does a thing here in Vegas every year called David Foster and Friends, where he comes to town, and it's a big charity show that he does.
Okay.
And they get all these different artists who are all friends of David's, the A-list people, that come into play. And so I was called to play a David Foster and Friends show here in town.
As a house band?
No, he had his guys. He had J.R. Robinson on drums, local players. But the coolest part for me was that I was subbing for Michael Thompson.
Oh, very cool.
And Michael, who, by the way, I don't know if you had him on your show yet, but that's a guy you should talk. I could probably put you in touch with him. But man, talk about a guy who's done it all, man. And one of my very favorite players. And so I got to sub for Michael Thompson on David Foster and Friends. And I remember that night was Kenny G played with us, and Jackie Evenko, who's a young girl who won America's Got Talent. She's an opera singer. And it was just it was literally one show that I played with him, but it was an entire day of just kind of watching him and observing how he works. And they didn't send me, they sent me almost nothing as far as preparation material. I kept asking, can you send me some charts? Can you send me some music? Well, we don't really know what he's going to want to do. And then he would literally just show up at sound check and hand out charts and work out arrangements on the spot. I mean, it was incredible to watch him work, man. I just sat there and just studied him and took pictures. I got some pictures that I took from the thing, and he was super nice and very supportive, and it was I just really enjoyed watching him do his thing. And J.R. Robinson, who's the drummer, he's been that dude's played on I remember one of the songs we did a Michael Jackson song. It was Smooth Criminal. I think it was Smooth. I can't remember, but and he got to we were just going to start, and then JR, he looked over at me and he said, "How did I play this again?" And I realized that he was on the record,
Oh, very cool.
It was pretty incredible, man. I mean, I felt way out of my league on that gig, but and then I made friends with Michael Thompson later, and of course he had spent decades with David, and it was just, I just lucked out and got a call. Somebody recommended me to somebody else, and I got a call from David's musical director, and so it was that one show, and it was a full day of working with him and watching. It was great.
So let me ask you this, John. You were looking for charts like any normal person would, so you could be prepared. At your skill level, if you get these things last minute, you're not like you're not freaking out or anything, or like, what is your thought process?
Well, I do read music. I'm a good reader. I'm not a great reader. I'm not one of those guys who can show up and sight read, really complicated stuff. I'm a good reader. I'm a homework guy. I prefer to prepare. I like to get the music in advance.
Sure.
One of my things is I hate staring at a page when I'm playing music. I hate it.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes when it's unavoidable. But whenever I have the option, I'll always ask for the music in advance so that I can, I'll have the charts there. I use charts as a roadmap especially in a situation like that. I was basically sight reading that gig because they didn't give me a whole lot. But I don't like to put myself in that situation whenever I can avoid it, because I'm just not that great of a sight reader. I'm a good sight reader. So
yeah, but that's a real specialty, like a few guys.
Charts.
Sorry, the connection's a little wonky.
Oh yeah, that's all right. Same over here. Yeah, I'm not one of those guys. I've seen guys who just literally walk in and pull out 5 pages and just read it like they've been in the band for 20 years. I don't read that much. I mean, when I started out taking guitar lessons, I learned to read, and I was a really good sight reader back in high school or whatever. And then I started playing in blues bands, and I didn't use it, and I literally lost it, and I lost almost all my reading chops. And then when I moved to Vegas, when people would start calling me for gigs, they would just assume I was a good reader. So I kind of had to get it together again.
Okay.
I had to really kind of fire up my chops again, but whenever possible, I try and commit as much to memory as I can, and then just use the charts as a roadmap on stage. But I hate reading. I'd rather watch the singer or, interact with the musicians, instead of just staring at. I also feel like I don't play my best when I'm looking at a page. I feel like I'm distracted,
Yeah, I can, because you're not present with the guitar. Part of your attention is committed to this thing in front of you. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. Now, to me, man, playing music is eye contact and laughing and and listening and reacting and stuff. And if I'm trying to read a passage or something, I'm tuned out all that stuff. I'm just trying to make the notes, and I should probably be a better sight reader at this point. But I do read, and I read a lot in Vegas. I get called a lot to read on some of those Broadway shows, for instance, as those are all reading gigs. But 9 times out of 10, you can get the music in advance, and I always ask for audio, and then I'll spend a lot of time listening to it, get it up here as much as I can,
sure.
And then the reading thing is the final step.
No, I could tell you're like a guy who likes to prepare, which I'm the same way. I mean, there's no reason not to. It's just you feel so much more confident when you're prepared,
Yeah. No, I like to do my homework. I like to show up prepared, and whatever I have to do to get to that point. It might involve, spending hours on YouTube watching old videos of them. I watched a bunch of old David Foster and Friends to see what Michael was doing. What kind of guitar is he using on that? What sort of pedal? What sort of reverb pedal is he using? I usually get really deep into it, man.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, but that's to professionals. That's what you do, man. You can't.
Yeah, I want to do a good job, and I want it to sound good to my ear, or as good as I can get it to sound.
Well, plus, being good at something, you can't casually be good.
Yeah, it does take a lot of kind of dedication and hours and stuff. I mean, I was lucky that I was born with a knack for playing guitar. I'm lucky that I found the thing that I'm good at. I wasn't really good at anything else when I was a kid. I played soccer. I wasn't that talented at it. I loved to swim, but I wasn't on a team or anything like that. I didn't have anything I was really good at until I found the guitar, and so a lot of it is you spend sort of honing it and finding it. You can't really just go on either exclusively. I think it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, for sure, man. Hey, I want to just talk about the Zeppelin band you're involved with, Zeppelin USA. You're coming up on your 1-year anniversary where you're doing Jimmy Page's riffs, man. How cool is that?
Oh man, I cannot tell you how cool it is. I didn't mention this earlier, but I might as well put it in here. But the entire reason that I play guitar is Led Zeppelin. That was the thing that drew me. And I remember the exact moment. Now, all right, my folks got me a guitar when I was a kid. I was much younger, and there was a book that came with it, and I tried to make a C chord, and my hand wasn't big enough, and so I just put it in the closet for about a year. And then about a year later, I would take it out again, and I would try and make a C chord. Hands weren't big enough. Then around 6th grade, they used to do in Los Gatos, where I grew up, He used to have. Did they have midnight movies where you grew up? Like the radio station would do midnight movies with like rock movies.
Yeah, it wasn't as wholesome as that. It was like, yeah, like.
Oh, it wasn't wholesome.
No, I grew up in the Bronx, man. There was not like there was nothing wholesome and pure about anything going on there at midnight. It was like you go down to the city and you watch Rocky Horror Picture Show and get totally high. And,
yeah,
it
was like that vibe.
Yeah,
it was like that vibe.
Yeah.
The local radio station, they would every week there was the Los Gatos Theater downtown, and there was a radio station called KOME in San Jose. And they would do a rock movie like every Saturday night or whatever. And it would be, Yes songs or the Grateful Dead movie or, Pink Floyd, whatever. And one of them was Remains the Same. Now, at this point.
Oh, I remember that. I remember seeing that at midnight, as a matter of fact. Funny you say that.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. So
I saw it at the Planetarium downtown in Manhattan, but yeah.
Oh, with the light show and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Correct. Yeah.
So I had been aware of Zeppelin because I'd been hearing it. Like I had a buddy of mine whose older brother was always listening to Zeppelin, and I would hear these riffs kind of coming out of his room. I'd hear, Heartbreaker or The Ocean or something like that. And I'm like, man, what is that? And Whole Lot of Love. I would hear all these riffs, and I just go, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And then went to this midnight movie, just kind of on a whim. I didn't really know anything about Zeppelin. I just went, and it was, it was loud, and everybody was smoking pot and screaming for the songs like it was a concert. And man, they came out. That movie started, and I heard all those riffs that I had been hearing subconsciously in my friends' houses. All these riffs being played by one band, and then you got Jimmy Page in his dragon suit with the Les Paul, and that was it.
Yeah.
That I walked out of there, and I said, man, that's the coolest guy I've ever seen. And I've got to do that. I've got to make those noises on a guitar. And that was, my mom saw that I was really getting into the guitar after I saw that Zeppelin movie. I went out and bought their albums, and I started really getting deep into music. And then she signed me up for lessons. So that was how it started.
Very cool.
So fast forward to now, because Zeppelin was the entire beginning of my, career as a musician or whatever you want to call it. So about a year ago, Zeppelin USA, who are all buddies of mine, their original guitar player left, and the singer, who it's kind of his band, and he and I have been friends for a long time, and we're both hardcore Zeppelin nerds. He just called me out of the blue, and he said, "Hey, man, feel like playing some Zeppelin?" Hell yeah!
That's so cool.
And I have to say, I'm not a fan of tribute bands generally. The reason that I joined this band was because we don't wear any costumes. We don't wear any wigs. I'm not in a dragon suit. I don't look anything like Jimmy Page. None of us look like any of the guys. We just play the songs, and there's kind of a multimedia show that goes along with it, lights, lasers, video, and we recreate as close as we can the classic album versions. And, Zeppelin didn't even do that. They would record the album, and then Jimmy Page would go out on stage on tour and with a totally different sound than he had on the albums.
Right.
So for me, like,
we have like a 25-minute Dazed and Confused, which is amazing. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, that movie, that's it. I can pinpoint the moment I wanted to play the guitar was when I saw that movie. And so to be here we are decades later, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how did he get that tone? What kind of slapback is he using on this tone? Or what's the phase shifter setting on, on Cashmere or whatever. And it's just so much fun for me. I feel like I'm 15 again, and I'm in my room with my guitar, except instead of moving the needle, I'm, you're
playing guitar, man. What's your favorite? What's your favorite Zeppelin song to play?
Oh God, that's a tough one, man. They're all so much fun.
What's your favorite Zeppelin Page solo to play? That's a better question.
Man, Since I've Been Loving You is a great one.
Oh, beautiful. Great blues, man.
I mean, that solo is just, it's perfect, man. It really is. I've really been enjoying Misty Mountain Hop. We play that one live. That's just a fun riff, and I love the little. It's like a kind of composed melodic solo that he does in there. And we do some deep cuts too. We play a little bit of Carousel Ombra, which was off into the Outdoor.
That's a difficult song.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite moments in the show, you know. And then we do Heartbreaker, and there's an extended unaccompanied solo where it's just me out there for about 5 minutes just noodling and
that's so cool.
Fun. That's fun because I can always like bring in little snippets from various phases. I mean, I'm every single note they ever play or record, man, I'm all over it. I love it. I can tell you, he played this riff on, in 1970 on the BBC recording. I mean, I'm pretty deep into it. So it's fun for me to, like we do the studio version, and then maybe I'll throw in like a little riff that he did on the live version.
Yeah.
Like we just played a show here night before last, and we added Celebration Day off of the third album.
Great song.
And so I sat down and caught the entire solo that he plays on the outro of that, which is brilliant Jimmy Page guitar playing, and
he's pretty again, going all over the place like on that.
Yeah,
he's pretty fast on that.
Yeah, he is, man. He was on. A lot of people dog that movie.
Oh, I can't stand. I don't like Jimmy Page's sloppy guitars. I'd love to be as sloppy as Jimmy Page any freaking day of the week.
Man, I'm telling you, this was the most work I've ever put into preparing for a gig.
That's nice,
and what you just said is a large part of it, because trying to recreate his style. I saw a video recently Joe Bonamassa, and he was sitting with a Les Paul, and he was talking about British blues players, and he would play a little bit of Clapton. He was talking about Page, Beck, Clapton, and can't remember who else it was, but he had a guitar, and he would go, yeah, Clapton would do, and he'd play like some cream licks, Dead On, sounded great. Jeff Beck was kind of this, and then he got to Jimmy Page, and he went, I'm not even going to try and do that. And this was Joe Bonamassa.
That's
because it's really freaking hard to do, man.
Yeah. And, he's such a good guitar player, man.
Oh, he's amazing. I'm so tired of people dogging him, man. I mean, that guy is just, he's doing what all of us dream of doing.
Of course. And, it's just, it's easy for people that have never done anything on stage to sit and criticize, it's like these people who troll. It's just always, like I had Steve Vai on the show, and the comments some of the people have made there, I'm like, about his clothes. I mean, I'm like, are you really serious? This is what you have time to do? You're an adult? I mean, seriously?
How could anybody tuned into a guitar podcast criticize Steve Vai? I just don't understand that.
I don't either, man. And, it was really funny.
I think some people just have nothing better to do than criticize and complain, and they're probably sitting in their mom's basement.
That's exactly what they're doing. Absolutely, man. I agree with you 100%. Do something and see how tough it is.
Even if I don't dig a player, even if I don't listen to him or whatever, I mean, man, I respect the fact that they're doing it.
They're doing it.
And in Steve's case and in Joe's case, these are guys that love the guitar, man. I mean, I listen every time I hear either one of those guys talk, man. I can just hear that they're in love with it still, and it doesn't matter what some idiot says in the comments. Just doesn't interest me at all, man. I'm interested in cats play and cats who are in love with the music and the guitar.
I agree, man.
But anyway, so yeah, I spent a solid month preparing for the Zeppelin thing, and it's really hard. And whenever it's really hard to recreate the Page thing. And whenever somebody says that, oh man, he was sloppy, you do it. Let me hear you do it.
Please.
Let me hear you play like it top that thing. And Page, I heard it described perfectly one time. They said that he was always playing all the way up to the edge of his abilities. So sometimes, he was going for stuff that was maybe beyond, his technical abilities. He was always pushing, man. And sometimes it sounded sloppy, and then other nights it was magical, but it's the hardest thing in the world. I'm telling you, man. I've spent so much time shedding gigs and learning, other people's styles and stuff. The Jimmy Page thing was the most challenging. I spent a solid month in this room with pedals and guitars and tunings, and it's really difficult, but the payoff is huge, man. When we play those tunes, it's for me, I feel like I'm a kid again, man. It's just so much fun. And and you see how much people love that music and how much it means to them.
You never come east for that? I'm assuming that's all out west.
Well, we want to. We really, our singer who runs the band, he's trying to get us out there. It's tough because, like you said earlier, there's so many Zeppelin bands, and a lot of them have a lock on certain parts of the country. I think that I thought this before I joined the band, but I feel like Zeppelin USA is one of the better bands out there doing this. And I was a fan before I was in the band. Our singer, if you look up Zeppelin USA, there's a promo reel. I'm not in it. It's Steve, the previous guitarist. But if you look them up, there's nobody out there that does Robert Plant better than Brody. I mean, it's.
Let me tell people where to look.
Mind blowing, and all these guys. Yeah, it's like a 5-minute snippet or something, but you'll get it as soon as you hear him sing. You go, it sounds exactly like the record. And everybody in the band, all three of these guys are just, the top of their game, man, and everybody loves the music. And I would put our band up against just about any of those other bands. But the problem is when he tries to get us, a gig on the East Coast or something, they say, oh, well, we're exclusive with,
some other band over here.
Get the Let Out.
Well, nobody's playing in Florida here.
Really?
Yeah. Well, there was one band. I think it was like it was just called Led Zeppelin Tribute Band or something like that. They played, I think I don't know, Ruth Ecker. They had Pink Floyd tribute band, but they were from Australia. I don't think I've seen a Zeppelin tribute band here.
Australian, they're great.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen a Zeppelin, but man, Florida is such a pain in the ass to come to because everything's so spread out. It's such a big state. It's not, as you know, it's everything is, you're going to drive every single night, and you want to make it. You got to make money on the gig, or you not lose money anyway.
Well, I think that's part of it too. Is the logistics of getting us out there with the production value that Brody brings to the show. It's probably cost prohibitive to just go out for like one show. I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping at some point we can come back east. I really believe that this band is as good as any of those bands, and frankly better than some of the Zeppelin bands I've seen that are working way more than we are. But that's okay. I mean, when we play, I look forward to it, and I would love to be doing more of it. But they're just kind of logistical or parts of the country that and the venues, like I played in venues with the Righteous Brothers, and I go, oh, this would be a great venue for Zeppelin USA. It's got 2,000 seat place, which is about where we play or something, and then I'll pass the information on, and then they call and they go, oh man, you guys are great, but we're exclusive with Get the Let Out or whatever.
Some other Zeppelin. So, interesting.
I'm thinking, why can't you have like more than one Zeppelin band?
Yeah, I mean, if Get the Let Out is doing really well, wouldn't you bring another one? Because they're going to do really well also as a venue owner or a venue manager. Let me ask you this:
incredible. They do a totally different thing than we do, and I guarantee if you had 2 Zeppelin shows in 1 month, people would come to both of them.
Absolutely, because what's the frame of reference? What are they going to say? Oh, I like this. I mean, they like Zeppelin. That's why they're coming.
Yeah. They're there. They don't know who we are. They don't care who we are. They're coming there to hear that music. And,
right.
I'm hoping that we'll branch out. At this point, it's pretty much been a West Coast and Southwest thing. Vegas, Arizona, Southern California. We're doing a thing. Actually, we're doing a thing next weekend, at the first of May 31st. We're doing a thing in Brea.
Is that California?
Brea, California, the Brea Fest. Southern California, yeah.
Tell people where they could find you guys. Hang on a sec, John. It's Zeppelin USA, and the website is Z as in Zeppelin, USARocks.com. So Z USA Rocks. So ZeusaRocks.com. So check them out there.
Yeah, ZeusaRocks.com. And the next show, I don't know when this will be on the air, but the next show is May 31st in Brea, California at the Brea Fest.
Awesome. Without giving me numbers, how does that work when you're playing? Do you have to give them whoever owns publishing? Do you have to pay them how does that work?
That's I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. It doesn't really affect me. I think what it is I think the venue might have to pay a certain amount of money, because a lot of these places we play have nothing but tribute bands. So I think they probably pay some sort of BMI fee or something
Okay,
like that.
that makes
I don't
sense.
think that I don't think that we personally have to pay anything. But I think that the venues that we play do, and I think that's probably the case for any place that has cover bands, you know.
Yeah, it's because it makes sense. Because
find out what the answer is to that.
Well, it makes sense because it's like a club playing music, playing having a station. They got to pay BMI for the right to have. So that
exactly.
that makes a ton of sense.
I think that's how it works with cover bands and tribute. I think that the venue just pays a certain amount every month, and then they can have as much in there as they want. I'm assuming. I don't know.
So let's talk about where you grew up in Los Gatos. You said.
Yes.
What was it? Is that a big town, small town, city, small town?
It's a small town. I don't know, maybe 60,000 people or something like that.
That is small.
Upper middle class. Yeah, it is, and it really hasn't changed much since. I still go up there and visit a lot. It's just a small town, kind of in between San Jose and Santa Cruz, but it's very, very beautiful little town, and it's the area around there. There's Los Gatos, and then there's Campbell, and then there's Saratoga, and those are three small towns all kind of bunched together, and they're right next to San Jose, so the entire area is called the South Bay. It's the Bay Area, but it's the South Bay area, so it's in the South Bay, and Los Gatos is, like I say, upper middle class, just a quaint little town, and I grew up kind of on the Campbell side of town. I had to go to Campbell schools, but it's just literally we literally lived on the street that divided Los Gatos and Campbell, so our mail would say Los Gatos on it, but then I would go to Campbell schools because we were on that side of the street.
Gotcha.
So I say Los Gatos, but it was a lot of Campbell too. But they're just really, really kind of picturesque little Northern California towns.
Well, you said the Bay Area. You're talking about San Francisco?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, man. I'm.
No. Well, the way it works is it's the San Francisco Bay Area, and then there are areas like the North Bay, which is like San Rafael, Marin, Santa Rosa. There's San Francisco proper, and then there's the peninsula, which is just south of San Francisco, and then is the South Bay, which is San Jose and points south from there. So, like I lived in the South Bay, but then I would often travel to the North Bay to play gigs. So you drive over the Golden Gate and go to San Rafael to play a gig or something like that. So it's all considered the Bay Area, but they're just sort of sections of the Bay Area.
Sure. Thanks.
Los Gatos is in that.
What was your childhood like growing up? You mentioned you had some alcohol stuff in that family. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, or what was growing up like for you?
Overall, it was great. I was very, very lucky to have two loving parents, very supportive parents. It was just me and my sister and my mom and dad. Very small family. Any cousins, nephews, or anything like that. And I felt very fortunate that my parents stayed together.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad were married until my dad passed away in 1999.
Oh, wow.
And growing up, going to high school, and all my friends and stuff, they were in divorce homes. Mom and dad were divorced. My best friend lived with just his mom. His dad was long gone, that kind of thing. And I used to feel so lucky to just go home to my mom and dad and my sister every night, and everybody, loved each other. But as you mentioned, my father was an alcoholic. So the only negative stuff really that I dealt with in the family was related to that. And it wasn't, there wasn't like abuse or anything like that, but it was just, I just noticed that, when my dad would drink, things would kind of get dark, and so in my head, I just kind of put those together, like, okay, that's not good, the drinking thing. My dad was the funniest guy, the nicest guy in the world. He was a very heavy drinker for most of his life, and then he ended up eventually kicking it, and unfortunately, done. But so I learned a lot of lessons from that, and the only sort of negativity and dysfunction that was in our house was a result of that. So I think that's probably subconsciously why I decided to never drink.
You're lucky, man, because that's so genetic. Between genetics and behavior, you're really lucky you didn't. That didn't pass down, because that's more. You're very much the exception and not the rule.
Unfortunately, I think you're right, and I definitely could have gone down one of two roads. I could have ended up like my old man. Yeah. Or I could learn from it and go the other way, and I went the other way, and it's like I say, there, it wasn't like he was beating anybody up or anything like that, but boy, when he was, again, the funniest guy in the world. Everybody loved my dad, just the nicest guy in the world. But when he would come home drunk, man, he was a different guy. You know? And so that really had a subconscious effect on me, and that's why I've never been drunk. I did, and also I have I sort of inherited his addictive gene.
But you're smart enough.
So if I like something, well, when I like something, I usually really like it, and I end up overdoing it. Sure. Like the guitar, I was able to kind of channel it into this, but it could be anything. I mean, if I get hooked on a video game, I mean, I'll just sit there. I mean, that's why I don't do it, because when I was a kid, and way too much time. If I got hooked on a game, I was just not gonna get up until I mastered it or whatever, and I just, if I ever took a drink and decided I liked it, I'd probably end up like my dad, and I never wanted to do that, because I know I have that gene.
Wow, I give you a lot of credit, because I've met people. Obviously, over the course of you meet a lot of people, and it's always one of those two ways. It's either because you know that you've got that addictive personality, so you're either like, I'm not doing anything. Or, you have the one or two things you do that aren't that are, maybe they're addictive, but they're nothing at somebody else's expense, like playing guitar or playing a video game maybe, or whatever. Or the other way, where you're just a mess. So I really give you a lot of credit. I think that takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah, a lot of people say that to me. They oh man, it must be, your willpower is so strong to not drink. But I always just say, I just never started. It really isn't that hard for me. I just never started. So it's not like I drank and I loved it and then I had to stop. That would be hard.
Yeah.
That would be hard.
No, I get it.
It's real easy when you don't start.
Well, the pain of going down that path is so much greater than the very slight discomfort of avoiding it totally. I get it, man. It's like, it's not really much of a push for you to do it. So to not drink or whatever, Yeah, I totally get it, man.
And like I said earlier, like when I was in high school, and I used to go down to, they had a blues jam at this club in Los Gatos on Monday nights, and I would go and wait to sit in. I was like, 17, and I'd have to wait outside until it was time to come up and play. And then I would go up with my buddies with the Fusion Trio, and we would play like Freeway Jam or something.
Wow, what a great song.
And then we'd eat. And it was just, I was just around, even then, it was just everybody was hammered, and they'd get in my face with that breath. And I just remember, early on, I'd just be going, oh, God, it's just nothing. I mean, I'd leave home where my dad would be drinking, and then I'd go down to a bar, and it just seemed like I was surrounded by it, and it just made me want to get far away from it,
Man,
not to dwell on this.
I'm really happy. No, but listen, that's the kind of stuff. It forms a lot of what you do in your life and your perception of things when you're growing up like that. Believe me, I've got enough of my own shit, so I totally get it, man. This is something that, and it's not a normal thing that you should have to deal with that. At any age, it's uncomfortable, and it's not your shit, and it's forced on you. So right. It's like, fuck, I got to make better decisions than that. And
it's unfortunate that it's the norm, and that like my story is so bizarre. It's sad that people really trip out when you go, I don't drink. And whoa, you did drink, right? Oh, yeah, you recovery.
No, I think that's because you're dealing with musicians.
What? Yeah.
Because when I meet someone that doesn't drink, I don't even give it a second thought. I'm like, oh, good for you. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever consider that as, like.
Yeah, man,
it's like someone voting. When I meet someone, I don't think right away, oh, what political party are you? Yeah. You know, I don't give a shit about that either. It's do your thing, man. You know, so.
Right. If I go out to eat with friends and I got, you know, the guy next to me is ordering vegan food, cool, man. Do your thing. You know?
Right.
I'm not vegan, but good for you. I mean, and I don't even think about it. It's like, cool, that's what we're.
Yeah, I know.
I'll tell you, this is a funny one. When I first joined Charlie Musselwhite's band, and I told you earlier, Charlie was a recovering, you know, alcoholic of epic portions, you know, and he took me out to dinner, and just to kind of get to know me, you know, and just talk and tell me about the gig and blah blah blah. And Charlie's from Memphis, and he kind of speaks with this sort of soft spoken like Memphis drawl, you know. And so he said to me, I'm going to do my bad Charlie impression right now, but he said, John, any bad habits, man? Is there anything I need to know about you, man?
You do good. You're great at voices, man. You did John Lee Hooker good. This is good. I just heard Charlie literally 2 nights ago. I watched the Mike Bloomfield movie. You're like right on, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're right on, dude.
When you're on the road with him for 5 years, man, you kind of get his voice down, you know. So he goes, John, you got any bad habits I need to know about, you know? And I said, Charlie, man. And I go, I said, I don't drink. And I said, I've never been drunk. And his eyes got this big, and he looked at me and he said, that's like seeing a flying saucer.
That's classic, man.
One of the funniest things that anybody ever said to me, man. I never forgot it.
That's
like seeing a flying saucer.
That's great. That's great. Very cool, man.
Charlie's a guy, man.
Hey, so let's talk about guitar for a few minutes anyway. I see you got I've seen little bits and pieces around your office there, your studio. What's your go-to guitar? Like, what guitar do you like picking up the most, and what other 2 or 3 would round out the top?
Well, here, I'll show you.
Dude. Oh, nice. 335?
My 335, it's an 85. I bought it brand new in about, I think 86, 87. I bought it brand new. This is, I have, you know, a couple of dozen guitars. This far and away is my favorite axe. This is the one that, this was my first really good guitar. I had, let me see, I'll show you.
What's that? Looks like a jazz box up top, but from here it looks like it's 3 pickups. It's like a semi-hollow or a hollow body.
Oh,
yeah, what is that?
Yeah, this is. I'll show you. It's an Epiphone. I think it's called a Blues Deluxe or something like that. But it's
there's 3 pickups. Okay, so what is that? 3 P90s on there?
Yeah, 3 P90s, and it's a jazz box, you know. But it's got the P90, so it can kind of do that out of phase, like nasally T-Bone Walker thing, you know. And
beautiful guitar, man.
But you know, it's an Epiphone. It's not the real deal. I mean, if I was to buy the real thing, it would have been a fortune. But I really dig this guitar, man. This is.
Is that older?
This is a guitar that no, it's probably 10 years old or something. I bought it used.
Beautiful guitar.
And I just always wanted to have a jazz box, and I really dig that T-Bone Walker kind of out of phase thing, and this does it real well. And I don't get to play it out that much, but I love this guitar. It's great. I'll put it back once.
Yeah, man, do your thing. We had like a 10-minute run there where their connection was so good, and then it's been like half-assing us most of the time.
I'm sorry, what?
I said we had a 10-minute run there about 10 minutes ago where the connection was so clean for just a short period.
I know. There was no lag or anything, and now we're back to lagging.
Yeah.
So anyway, the 335 is far and away my favorite axe, although I don't get to play it as much anymore because, I'm playing with the Righteous Brothers now, and so I'm playing mostly Tellys and Strats and solid body guitars. But the 335 is, you know, I bought that guitar. I'll show you this. This is my first electric.
Oh, this is SG.
This is just, it's an R.
What is
it's a no name, like SG copy. It's nothing. It's a sticker that's on there. But
that's so funny.
It looks, it's just a piece of junk SG copy. I liked it because it looked like Angus Young's SG.
Yeah,
you know?
it does.
Put a couple of Seymour Duncans in it, but this was the guitar. This was my first electric guitar, and I was playing this when I was learning how to play, and I was taking lessons. And then when I joined my first professional band, which was called Andy Just and the Shapes, when I was 19, I was playing this guitar, and I literally could barely keep it in tune. It was just, it was a mess, you know. And so Andy, Andy Just is an incredible harmonica player that plays around the South Bay, San Jose area. And he was kind of an established guy, and I joined his band. That was my first kind of professional gigging band. That led to the Ford band later. Andy said to me, he goes, "Man, we got to get you a good guitar, you know." And so he knew these guys up at Gelb Music in Redwood City, and we went up there. And of course, at the time, I was really into Robin. I was really into Larry Carlton. I was really into Lee Ritenour. I was into all these guys that played 335s, and also Lyle Workman had a 335.
Did you know? How'd you meet Lyle?
I met Lyle when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and when I had that fusion trio with Eric Kretz that I was telling you about, we played at a house party, and we played earlier in the day, and then Lyle came out with a bass player and a drummer, and just absolutely proceeded to tear my head off, man. He was playing the paint off the guitar, man. And he had a red 355. He had a Jim Kelly amp, and he had an Altair power attenuator. I can see it in my head. I can picture. And he just absolutely just floored me. And again, 335, and I went, oh, 335. And then there's another guy who you've probably heard about. If you haven't had him on your show, you should. There's a guy named Chris Kane. Chris Kane is,
I know who he is. Yeah, I'd like to get
him.
him.
Man, you got to get him on your show, man.
He's a really good. He's a blues guy, but he plays not like. Does he put some jazz in there too once in a while?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. He's a very, very deep musician. He's kind of like Ray Charles with the guitar, but he just happens to be, in my opinion, the best blues guitar player out there. And growing up around the South Bay, I used to go see Chris play, and Lyle, and they both played 335s. Chris still plays a 335. So when it came time for me to get a good guitar, that was what I wanted. And we went up to Gelb Music in Redwood City, and I immediately spotted this blonde one that I showed you a second ago, and I didn't have any money, I was like, and at the time, this was solid body, locking tremolo, Van Halen kind of guitars around that time. Nobody wanted 335s, and so this guitar, it's a 59 reissue. I'm going to grab it again.
So it's a fat neck then?
It's not fat enough. I wish the neck was a little bigger because I have giant hands, but it's a great neck. I could stand it a little bigger, but and so this thing, it's a 59 reissue. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Yeah. Is that ebony or rosewood?
Huh?
Is that ebony neck or rosewood?
It's rosewood. It's just kind of worn down. You can see that I've sort of worn this guitar out.
Oh, wow. The whole back is totally relicked, man, from bumping up against you. It's a beautiful blonde colored guitar, man.
Looks like a 59 now. And I bought this guitar brand new, and I've just played it every day since I got it, and now it looks like a 59.
It's a beautiful guitar, man.
Thanks, man. I love this guitar, and it's surprisingly versatile guitar, man. People always think it's just a jazz or a blues guitar, but man, I've done metal sessions with this. I've played country gigs with this guitar. Ooh, look at that.
Preaching to the choir, bro.
Yeah, brother. Let me see. Is that a Bigsby on there?
Yeah, this is it's a 2014. It looks old, but this is funny because everybody's always asking me about this guitar. It looks old, but it's not. What happened was, so I was in Nashville looking for. I'm sorry, this is not about me. I'll just tell you a quick story about this guitar. But
no, I want to hear.
I was in Nashville. I wanted to buy one, and man, I've only been playing guitar 3 years. I got this a year and a half ago. So at the time, I was not qualified to pick a guitar, But I was. I mean, it's the truth, I was not qualified. How do I know, So I had a guy up there named John Prestia, who was a buddy of mine. He's been Tim McGraw's guitar tech for 20 years. Oh. So I said, we were hanging out, and I said, John, would you help me? and he goes, with this one on Craigslist. I said, I know, I saw it. It's got a Bigsby on it. And I'm thinking it's some idiot like myself. I'm imagining a guy like me in his garage drilling holes there. I'm like, man, I don't want any part of that. So we call a guy up, and it turns out he's not an idiot like me. He actually worked at Gibson. So he bought it at Gibson and brought it into the factory where he works, and they put the Bigsby on.
I'll be damned.
Yeah, and then they just put this old-fashioned custom-made sticker here over the original bridge holes.
Custom made, yeah. They used to have those on like the Johnny Smiths and stuff. Yeah,
all the vintage ones. It looks vintage, but it's not. It's like a 2000. I love this because I do not have big hands. I'm only 5'9", and this is a real slim neck. This is my main guitar I play. I love it. It's for the same reasons. It's really versatile. When you it sounds like a Telly, even if you put it on the. Yep. The front pickup, and it's really great, man. I love it.
I've literally, like I said, I've done country gigs with this guitar, and nobody knows the difference. I played rock. I played every style of music you can imagine on this guitar, and it just always fits the bill no matter what,
I really like it.
Yeah, I love, and in fact, I'm sort of, I'm almost getting ready to maybe get another one. I'm thinking about maybe like a Tobacco Sunburst one or something. Or I love that cherry red, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I got this. I'm like every other person that plays guitar because I'm a Freddie King fan. He's like my biggest.
Of course.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I want to get what Freddie's playing. 50.
Use a thumb pick?
Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I wish I could. Hey, listen, I struggle with a regular pick. Come on. But
you and me both.
I just love the feel of it. And it looks cool, man. It's just, to me anyway, I really like it.
That's a beauty, man.
Thanks.
What year is it?
It's a 2014. And it's got the 57s in there, which sound really like, to me, they're very like PAF-ish, I like it. It's just.
Oh, it's a beauty.
Thanks, man. I really enjoyed it.
My favorite acts, man. I've got 24 guitars, and the joke I have with Jen, my wife, is I say, like when the house is burning down, like I'll have her under one arm, and I'll have this under the other.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
All the other guitars, but this is the one that gets rescued in the fire.
Are you attached to your guitar? How some guys are like super attached to their guitars. Are you someone that's really attached to your guitars?
Yeah, I am, especially this one. But I'm very attached to them, and I'll just kind of.
Oh yeah, we're getting a tour now of the studio. If the internet complies with us.
I don't know if you see, but yeah, it's. You can kind of get a sense.
Oh, he's got all kinds of guitars. He's got
all over the place.
Tellys, Les Pauls.
Guitar, I've got. Let's see. I've got two. One Fender and one that's a custom thing. That's actually here. I'll show you that one. That's a really cool one. This is sort of my main guitar that I use on the Righteous Brothers gig, and this is made by my buddy Keith Holland, who's up in Northern California. He's a good buddy of Lyle's, and he's been working on my guitars since I was in high school, and this is my main Righteous Brothers guitar because most of that music was the Phil Spector kind of Steve Cropper guitar, and the Wrecking Crew and stuff like that. So it's
a custom Telly, like,
even though it's this has a big neck on it.
It's huge. I can see it.
It's a baseball bat, man, and he just made this. He made this Telly, and this is a guy who really knows Tellys and has grown up working on them and playing them, and he just built me this thing, and I swear if you played it, man, you would swear it's a 57 Telly. It's just, and it sounds incredible. But I don't get to play my 335s much because I've been using guitars like this for this particular music, for the Righteous Brothers thing. But any chance I get, man, and if I'm just home playing around, that 335 is definitely the one. And I'll show you one more here real quick.
Yeah.
This is my Les Paul.
Is that your Jimmy Page guitar?
Huh?
Is that your Jimmy Page? Is that what you used for Zeppelin USA?
This is the one I use on the gig, on the Zeppelin gig. And it's an R9, it's a 59 reissue, and I've always, ever since I saw that Song Remains the Same movie, I wanted to get a good Les Paul, and of course I'm a huge fan of Peter Green and the early Clapton stuff, Jeff Beck, Truth, most of my favorite records, Les Paul's on them, first couple Billy Gibbons or ZZ Top records, just the tone, and I always wanted, this is like my bucket list guitar, and what happened was my mom passed away about 6 years ago.
Sorry, man.
And she, it was kind of thing. It was pretty heavy, and it was unexpected. And she ended up leaving me just a little bit of money that I didn't know about, And so I decided to use it to finally get the Les Paul that I wanted, sort of as a tribute to my mom, And so I spent about a year and a half, just everywhere I went, I would play Les Pauls. I would go to this, the local guitar store and play Les Pauls until one spoke to me. And I found this one in St. Paul, Minnesota at Willie's American Guitars. You probably know that place, right?
I do not. I know the only store I know in the Midwest is Dave's guitar store. Dave Rogers. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah. I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found this one. My wife is from Minneapolis, so we would go to visit her family every summer, and I was at Willie's and I played this one. And I absolutely, this is probably my second favorite guitar right now, this Les Paul, and it really comes in handy on the Zeppelin gig, man. It does that thing, And
it's the PAF knockoffs, I'm assuming, that are in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
PAF reissues. It's completely stock. In fact, it could probably use some frets, but yeah, it's totally stock. And I bought it. It was used. It's a '99. And it's a 40th anniversary 59 reissue.
That's really cool.
And the guy that had this guitar apparently was like a doctor or something, and he bought the guitar and then put it under his bed in a case. So it was almost like a brand new guitar when I got it.
That's great. We need more people like that.
Yeah, right. more people with money to buy up guitars that we can get later.
Yeah.
But it was like the 335. It was just immediately I picked it up and it just spoke to me, and I knew I had to take it home, So anyway, this is my other kind of favorite guitar right now.
And what are you playing out of? Like, again, what do you like? What amp do you have that you like to play out of mostly?
Oh, I've got a bunch of amps. On the Righteous Brothers gig, I'm playing through an old '68 Blackface Twin.
Oh, great.
Which, is perfect for that music. It's just clean with beautiful reverb. It's just one of the best, probably the best clean tone I've ever been able to get out of an amp. So that amp lives over at Harrah's, which is where we do our residency gig. And then, but I would say that probably my favorite amp, and I have two of them now. I've owned three in my life, is Matchless. And I've got... I currently have, I'm looking, let me see if you can see. I've got this one in here. I don't know if you can, wait a minute. I might have to turn this around. Wait, let me see if I can do this. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, man. That's a beautiful amp. That's it's a 2x12 combo, maybe?
It's a Chieftain, yeah. It's 40 watts, 212, just pristine, clean tone. And I have another one, which is a 100-watt version of that called a Chief, and that's a 410 combo, so it's like a super reverb on steroids.
That's a how do you lug that around 100 watts? What does that weigh? About 80, 90 pounds?
It weighs 96 pounds.
Yeah,
I know exactly how much it weighs.
Holy crap!
It's that one's in the garage. Yeah, that's kind of big to lug around unless I'm using it, but I use it a lot for sessions. And the thing about Matchless amps is that they sound great at any volume. So even though it's 100 watts, you don't have to turn it up.
Yeah.
To get a great. But then I got this Chieftain, which is only 40, and this is a much more kind of practical gigging amp, So I use this one quite a bit.
Are you one of their artists?
I was at the time when I was playing with Charlie Musselwhite. I was a match deal, and I started out my first Matchless. Okay, so the story on this, I was playing. There's a great, incredible singer harmonica player and vocalist in Portland, Oregon, and Curtis Salgado, and I was in his band for a couple of years, and he I was using a super reverb with him, and we used to play up in the Northwest a lot, and something went down. I had to take it in and get some repairs done. And a buddy of mine up there loaned me his matchless to use at a gig, and I just flipped out, man. It was clean and punchy and takes all the pedals great. And so then I ended up buying a Chieftain. It was a 410 Chieftain, and that was the best sounding amp I've ever owned. And then what happened was when I started playing with Charlie, we would play on these festival stages where they could only give me, they would say, we only have one monitor mix, we can't give you any guitar on the monitor. And I was playing through a 40 watt amp, so I was getting buried and I didn't have any headroom. So my buddy at the time at Matchless, he called and said, hey man, we just came out with a 100 watt version of your amp. So I sold mine, and then I upgraded to this 100 watt Chief, and I've always regretted selling that amp because it was the best sounding amp. The Chief sounds incredible. And I talked to Phil Jameson, who still works at Matchless. He's the guy that he's been building since day one at Matchless. And I talked to him, and he told me that they only made a handful of 410 Chief combos, and I have one of them. So, and it's a great sounding amp, but that original one got away. And then there's an amp, real quick here. I'll show you this.
Yeah.
This is the amp that I use for Zeppelin.
Hillbilly. Where is that out of? That's such a great
This is out of Kingman, Arizona. And you can see this is called a Miniplex.
Oh, so it's basically a replica of a Plexi.
It's basically a jump channel Plexi, but it's only 25 watts.
Oh,
and
wow.
This guy at Hillbilly Amps, he's been working on Marshall and Fender amps forever, and he just took all the good stuff from a jump channel Plexi and put it into a 25 watt head and threw in a little bit of kind of Fender Bassman properties to it. And this thing just sounds unbelievable, and it's been the perfect amp for the Zeppelin gig. So this is sort of my go-to rock amp now.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, and nobody's ever heard of it's kind of a local guy, but he's on the web. He's Hillbilly Amps, but he makes incredible stuff, and Greg Howe actually turned me on to this amp. Greg's a friend of mine.
Yeah,
here in
that's
Vegas.
very cool.
And, he called me and he said, dude, you got to check out this prototype amp that I got. And I fell in love with it, and I had Robert make me one. And I'm using it all the time with Zeppelin USA now.
Is the guy a hillbilly? Is that why he called it Hillbilly Amps? Is he a real hillbilly?
It's not. No, he's not. Although he's a great rockabilly guitar player, so there might have been a little bit of that involved in the name. And this is funny, but he actually got in trouble on Facebook. They of
course. Whose feelings did he hurt?
Apparently they considered the name Hillbilly to be racist.
Oh,
and
of course.
They shut down his page, so he had to change it to Hillbilly LLC.
Okay.
Because the word hillbilly apparently was offensive to 2 or 3 people, and
right. Most of the guys I know that are hillbillies, they're laugh about it. They're like, yeah, us hillbillies,
Of course.
It's like, because I have a bunch of buddies in Kentucky, and they're always like, come on, you know how we are up here. I'm like,
See, there you go again with having a sense of humor, Craig.
I know. Stupid me. I got to be uptight.
You got to get over that, man. You get start getting offended by it.
I know. I'm so over this whole everything, it's like, don't leave your house, man. You're going to offend somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, Desert Island Discs, John, top 3. Just for today, man. Knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. Okay, how many? How many you want? 3?
Top 3.
5?
Yeah. 3.
Top 3. Oh man, God, that's so hard. My favorite pop band is a band called XTC.
XTC?
They're an English pop band.
XTC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know them. They're Andy Partridge, right?
Okay. Yeah. Andy Partridge, yes.
Yeah.
One of my heroes, man, one of my favorite songwriters. They have an album called English Settlement.
Oh yeah, man, that's back in the day.
Yeah. There was a song called Senses
Working Overtime. Yeah, I know that record. That's a great record.
It's a double record. I absolutely that's my favorite album. I love that record. And of course, I could pick any XTC album, but I think today I would pick English Settlement. And it's totally not guitar oriented, although Dave Gregory is a brilliant guitarist and he plays some incredible stuff on there. Mm-hmm. He's another guy you should have on your show, man. Talking about an interesting guy. And I met him through Lyle, actually. And then let's see, Solo Flight, The Genius of Charlie Christian. That's definitely a desert island disc for me. That was one that my guitar teacher turned me on to in junior high school. And it's a 2-record set of Charlie Christian with the Benny Goodman band. And not only is it, incredible guitar playing, but just the music to me is just sublime. I love Benny. I love the arrangements. I love his clarinet. I love, you got Gene Krupa, you've got, Lionel Hampton. It's just an incredible record of incredible songs played by incredible musicians. And then the centerpiece is Charlie Christian's, mind-blowing, trailblazing guitar, so I love that one. That's definitely on the list. Let's see, Tom Waits, Mule Variations. Love that record.
Can I tell you something? Tom Waits is in the top 5 favorite artists by guitar players.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
For sure. It's always like Beatles, Zeppelin.
Yeah. Beatles is obvious. I didn't go there because it's just so obvious. I mean, any Beatles album. Everybody, Magical Mystery Tour would be mine today. Yeah. But check back with me tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
But Tom Waits, man, any Tom Waits album, Swordfish Trombones, Rain Dogs, but Mule Variations, I've been really rediscovering lately. And Charlie Musselwhite plays on that album, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
He's on a few of his records. Yeah, and it was in '99. He recorded that album in '99, and that was back when I was in the band. And Charlie knew that I was a Tom Waits freak, and so I remember we got to the airport to fly somewhere, and he'd say, "Hey," he said, "I just did a session with Tom Waits," and I followed him around like a puppy dog for 3 days, getting stories, and they became buddies. They became.
That's cool.
But Mule Variations is whenever I meet, like one of the guys in Zeppelin USA took me aside and said, "Hey man, I've never heard of Tom Waits," and I think Mule Variations is a good starting point. And Mark Ribot, one of my favorite guitar players, he played on those records.
I'm supposed to be getting connected to him through Nels Klein, so we'll see.
I just listened to your show with Nels the other day, and I was thinking, man, if he's ever had Mark Ribot on.
He's supposed to be hooking me up with him. That was a really good show. I was blown away how open he was. He was a very, really nice, just a kind, nice guy, and no airs about him at all. It's great when I meet people, and I'm very lucky because 99% of the people I meet are like this, that are so talented and don't pretend that that talent takes them away out of humanity, that they don't have fucked up shit in their life, or they're not somewhat dysfunctional like we all are, within a range of whatever that dysfunction for your particular thing is, I like that.
Right.
I spent so many years in the business world in the working with gurus, and it's the opposite. It's like they pretend that everything's perfect, and I was the backroom guy doing all the marketing and for a lot of these guys, and I was like, God, this is like so insincere, like it's so duplicitous, and it really put me off, And it's the opposite here. Yeah. It's just really nice.
I found, by and large, when I meet guitar players who I really admire, look up to, worship, whatever, 9 times out of 10 they're super nice, they're humble. They're kind of normal people. I have met 1 or 2 assholes, that disappointed me. No names, but but like where I was just like thrilled to meet him, and then I walked away going, that guy wasn't very nice.
Be careful. What's the old saying? Be careful meeting your heroes. 9 times out of 10,
players that I interact with.
Sorry, we're breaking up. I said, that saying is like, be careful about meeting your heroes, or something like that. Amen.
Yeah. And I've been lucky. I've only experienced that a couple of times, but most of the players that I've met, like Robin, like back when I was playing with his brother's band, he would, he would sit in and play with us, and we'd be sitting backstage, and he'd be playing a guitar, and he'd go, "Hey John, here's my favorite chord," things like that. And I'm just like blown away by saying. And Greg Howe, who's my friend here in town, another guy you should have on the show. Nicest guy in the world, man. We just get together and hang, and don't even really talk about guitar that much. He's just like a regular dude, right. Super nice guy, great sense of humor. And, it's always nice to meet your heroes and have them turn out to be nice people.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It ain't that hard.
No, man, it's not. And it's in fact, it's a lot easier than being a dick, to be honest. It takes a lot less work.
It is.
It really does. Hey, most important things you've learned about yourself throughout your life and career experience.
Ooh, man, that's tough.
Yeah, this is a tough section. This is the section that Lyle and a couple of other guys, they're like, this should be called Everyone Loves Therapy. Do you know Doug Bossy?
Yeah, these are the ones I've been read.
Do you know Doug Bossy?
I know who he is. I don't know him.
He's always saying that too.
I love therapy. These are the questions I was dreading. You're
going to be fine.
I would say probably the most important thing that I've learned about myself is that I tend to deal with everything in humor. I try to laugh as much as I can, and that sort of helps me through a lot of really dark stuff that I've encountered in my life, and just as far as like losses, losing family members, losing really good friends, losing musician friends, and I find that and I definitely got this from my dad, but I find that there's never an inappropriate time to laugh or make a joke or something like that, and it helps me to sort of deal, since I don't have an escape like drugs or alcohol or something. Music for me, and also humor kind of help me deal with some of the bullshit that comes along with being a musician and dealing with people in the music business and stuff. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just
it makes sense because it's true.
No matter what's going on, you can always laugh at something or make a joke, and some people, oh no, you can't joke right now. I'm like, why not? Why can't you joke right now?
It's funny. Interesting rather. You when you said I got that from my dad, you sort of hesitated for a second because, and I understand why, because if you are not familiar with addiction, the perception is, oh, if someone's an addict or an alcoholic, then there's nothing good about them. And that's a very flawed perception.
Not
you
true.
have wonderful people. They have addictions. This is an illness. So I get it, but I understood your hesitation. Like, oh, I hope they don't think I'm an addict or I get it, man. But I understand addiction fully. I've had family members that are addicts. So
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely. My best friend in the world also was an addict, and he's no longer with us. He died of a heroin overdose in 2004. And greatest guy in the world. Yeah. I lived with a brother I never had. I grew up with him. Met him in the second grade. We were like this, and just a sweet guy.
Yeah.
But he had those demons.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing wrong with him. Everything else was great.
Yeah. Yeah. People.
In case my dad was the funniest guy you would ever meet. I remember when I would go out on the road with bands, and I would tell them jokes and stories involving my dad, and I'll never forget one time when we flew home from a tour. We were in the UK for a while, and we flew home from a tour, and I had been telling our bass player all these funny stuff, things that my dad said, and my dad picked me up at baggage claim at SFO, and he was at baggage claim waiting for me, and my friend went over and walked up to my dad, and he shook his hand, and he said, "Man, I'm a big fan."
That's cool. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
my dad's really funny, and so he definitely instilled that in me.
Good.
Kind of like, no matter what's going on, man, you can always laugh at stuff, and it'll kind of help you to deal.
Well, I'm very happy for you that you are able to stave those demons away and put them whatever place you can, man. Because honestly, that is a big. I'm happy for you that you could do that. You know.
Thanks. Well, I always say that if I had not discovered music and discovered the guitar, I don't know where I would be, man. I would probably be that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky that I was able to sort of channel my energies in that direction. Because,
sure.
But if I didn't have music, I honestly don't know how I could deal with life without
sure.
it. You know?
No, I totally
it's
get it.
It's more to me than just a vocation. It really is. You know, losing my mom was the worst day of my life, and it changed everything, you know, for me. And if I didn't have my guitar and I didn't have music, if I couldn't put on some Tom Waits,
yeah,
or whatever, I don't know how I could, if I'd even want to continue. You know, I mean, after losing so many people that I love, you know, I mean, thank God that I have that outlet, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have an outlet, and that's, I think, why they turn to chemicals, you know.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing all that, man. Going down the same path. What's been the happiest moment of your life?
Ooh, I think definitely my discovery of the guitar and my initial guitar lessons.
That is so cool.
I mean, I've been very lucky. I'm a very happy guy in general, and I have a lot of great memories. But when I saw that question, the first thing that popped into my head was that, you know, those first couple of guitar lessons, you know, when I went into my guitar teacher and I literally didn't know how to hold a pick, and he showed me how to hold a pick. He showed me how to sit the thing on my lap, and then he showed me how to play like a simple honky tonk blues rhythm on the guitar. And he said, and he gave me Mel Bay Volume 1. That was the book. You know,
yeah.
And he said, all right, go home and work on this, and then come back next week. And I went home and I just did that for a solid week. And I went back to the second lesson, and he says, all right, play me that thing I gave you. And I played it, and he looked at me and he said, man, you nailed it. He said, that was perfect. And then this little 40-watt bulb went on over my head, and I thought, holy crap, I just found something I'm good at. Because like I said earlier, I really wasn't good at anything. And all of a sudden, the clouds parted, and I went, oh my gosh, I just found my thing.
Right.
And I believe that everybody in life, they have something that they're good at or meant to do or whatever. And a lot of people never just discover it, or don't even look for it. And I just feel incredibly blessed to have found the thing that I'm good at, and then I feel like the happiest moment in my life. It was making that discovery, that man, I can do this, and it feels good, and I can't wait to do it again. And then my guitar teacher, I remember at the very first lesson, he said, "Who's your favorite guitar player?" I said, "Jimmy Page." And he said, "All right, man, cool." Yeah, I said, "Jimmy Page is great." And he said, "Jimmy Page learned from listening to this," and he handed me a copy of B.B. King Live at the Regal. And now, I didn't know who B.B. King was. There was nothing on that album cover that would have attracted
yeah.
the record store. It was kind of an older guy in a suit with a guitar that looked like that one you have there, with a jazz-looking guitar. There was nothing on that cover that would have appealed to me. But when my guitar teacher told me that my favorite guitar player in the world loved that record, I took it home. I dove into it, and it just absolutely blew my mind. And all of a sudden, bam, I'm listening to the blues, and I'm like 11, And so that whole period of time, when I look back, it's just nothing but good stuff, man. Getting on the bus every Wednesday and going down to downtown Salgado to have a guitar lesson, and just, excited about the next discovery,
That's so cool, man. Thank you. That's really nice. That's a great memory, man. Do you have any hobbies outside of music? I need to work out.
Yeah, I would say, I like to work out and run. It's probably it. I don't really do a whole lot else. Music takes up most of my time.
Sure.
I love to read.
What kind of stuff do you read?
Right now, right now I'm actually reading this book. It's actually cool. I'm actually in this book with this guy Mark Fisher sent me this book. It's called "What Do You Call That Noise?" and it's just kind of like a lot of great musicians like talking about XTC and so I just happen to be reading that one right now. But
oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the latest. But I love to work out. I listen to music a lot. I'm always discovering new music, especially with YouTube and stuff. There's stuff that I'm going, how did I miss this all my life? And I love discovering new music. I would say almost everything that I do is music related. And then if I'm not doing that, I'm at the gym or hanging with my wife and just doing nothing. I don't really watch TV.
I don't watch TV either. I know.
I don't watch TV. Like my wife and I just do normal stuff, and then we'll go to dinner or go to maybe to a movie or something. But it's pretty much all music, and then I love to run and work out when I can.
Very cool.
Oh, and food too. I'm definitely a foodie. My wife and I both love to dine out and check out. And Las Vegas is a great restaurant.
Oh God, yeah.
So there's it's one of the best in the world. There's always great places to eat here. So I'm definitely a foodie, which keeps me in the gym.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we were in Vegas 3 or 4 years ago. I couldn't believe it's like the restaurant capital, man. It's like so much.
It is, and all the celebrity chefs are coming here and open places, and that's one thing I love about Vegas. Like a lot of people knock Vegas and they think it's just like casinos and smoke and stuff, but man, there's so much going on here, man. There's so much. If you go 15 minutes in any direction from the Strip, it's like any other place, man. You got dog parks, you got hiking, you've got you've got original music venues, libraries. I mean, it's a normal place. I used to come here when I lived in the Bay Area, and I used to come to Vegas, and I just thought, how do anybody live here? Because you think it's just the Strip, but like we live a half an hour from the Strip.
Yeah, nobody lives on the Strip. Yeah, right.
Well, they do, but those aren't the kind of people that.
Right, nobody that you're going to be hanging out with is living on the Strip. Yeah.
If you need some crack rocks, that's a good place to go. But no, it really is. I love it here. It's a great community, and the music community is incredible, and there are great musicians moving here from all over the world all the time, and I think the days the reputation of Vegas is that it's a bunch of broke down people who don't have any other options or whatever. But I'll tell you what, man, I would put the music community here against Nashville or Austin or
I would agree with
York.
The broke down people.
And a lot of those cats are moving here.
Any broke down people can't afford to go to those casinos anymore either. It's too expensive there, man.
You're gonna have to repeat that because there was a glitch. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I said the broken up people, they can't afford. That's a wealthy, it's an affluent place. You can't afford to be there if you're like some, degenerate, broke gambler, man. That's not who Vegas is for, man.
Compared to where I came from, even the affluent places here are affordable.
Yeah, that's right. In California, it's funny. In 1994, my wife and I went to Vegas, and we went to this place called Bonnie. Do you know Blue Bonnie Springs?
Oh.
It's like you go
Bonnie Springs bar, right?
You go horseback riding there. It's a whole old town sort of. So I remember that drive. We went out on a dirt road and drove forever. Well, we were there 3 years ago, and we said, hey, let's go back. And it's good that we did because they're shutting it down. Everything was developed. There was homes and of course, it's 20 years later. But wow, I couldn't believe it was all roads. There's no such thing as a dirt road on that whole trip anymore. It was really cool.
Right. Yeah, I think I heard that they're shutting that down or something.
Yeah, they are. They're shutting it down.
Or actually, I think it did just shut down recently.
Yeah, because it was 3 years ago we went. And they said they were shutting it down.
Yeah, but I've never been to Bonnie Springs Ranch, and unfortunately, they just closed like a month or two ago, and I never got to see it. But there's a lot of that kind of stuff around here. You know, there really is. I mean, Red Rock. We live near a place called Mount Charleston, which is just it's a place when it gets to be 115 here in the summer. You go up there, about 20 degrees cooler, and there are trees, and you can go hiking, or you can go to the lodge and eat or whatever. There are a lot of people are surprised by what Vegas has outside of the casinos and all the obvious stuff.
Is there anything you wish you'd done differently?
Well, that's a tough one. There's so many. I definitely regret not having done my own record. And I'm not speaking of it in past tense, like it's never going to happen, because it's something that I'm in the process of trying to get together now. For as long as I've been playing, and for as many gigs that I've done and musicians that I played with and stuff, I've always played on other people's records. I've never done my own record. And frankly, you know, in 2019, it's a little embarrassing to not have your own record, because, I mean, you can literally lay in bed and do a record now, you know, on your laptop, you know. And so I wish that I had started recording stuff, you know. Guys like Lyle, man. Lyle's got, 4 albums out of his own original music, and I don't have anything like that where I can hand it to somebody and say, this is me, this is what I sound like. I can go, I played on this record, here's me sounding like this person, or here's me on a blues record or whatever. But I really want to, my goal now is to get an album's worth of music together that sort of represents, you know, who I am as a player, and just if nothing else, is a legacy thing, you know.
Dude, I would love you to do a record and come on here and promote it. I would love it, honestly. Promote the shit out of the thing.
Thanks. Oh, I'll be bugging you, man. Once.
Oh, it's not bugging me at all.
I wish, you know, when you first contacted me to do this, I thought, God, it's gonna be embarrassing, because I'm not gonna be able to go on and say, yeah, man, my album's on iTunes or whatever, but you know, I wish that I had, and it's my fault too, because I'm not the most confident, secure guy in the world when it comes to my own playing, and you know, and I hear what it would sound like in my head, but what if it doesn't come out like that? And you know, it's almost more fun to think about than to actually do, because I'm afraid, you know, I'm very insecure about it. But I realize now, especially, you know, with with mortality creeping in and stuff like that, you know, I realize it's something that I should have done a long time ago, and I need to get done. I want to at least have one album's worth of something that I'm really proud of. And so I wish I had gotten on this sooner, but fortunately I still have the opportunity to do it.
Oh, hell yeah. Hey, let me just tell you this, if it helps, for a couple of things, actually. Number one, of the side men I have met, and I've interviewed over 500 people now, 95% of them do not have a record. So don't feel like, really? Yeah. The second thing, I'll just pass this along to you. My son came to me, my middle son, he's 27. He graduated high school. He went to college for a semester, kind of fucked around, didn't work, and just, you know, wasn't ready for it. Been working ever since. He lives on his own, great kid. He's a unique individual. He was born with a mild case of cerebral palsy, you know, so he walks, you can see it in his gait. In spite of that, he ran track for 4 years, swam for 3.5 years, and wrestled for 4 years. So he's a pretty incredibly determined. Right. He's like my hero, to be honest with you. Anyway, a couple of years ago, he comes to me and he goes, you know, Dad, I really like to go back to school now. I'm ready for it. He goes, but I'll be so old when I graduate. So old. It's funny. He's 25. And he goes, I'll be 31 maybe. I said, hey, Casey, here's the deal, man. You're going to be 31 anyway. You might as well be 31 with a degree than 31 without a degree. And he goes, yeah, that makes sense. So if that, in some simple way, you're going to be 53, 54 anyway.
Yeah.
You might as well be 54 with a record than 54 without a record, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It just makes it easier. It takes the pressure off it. You know, it's like, I'm going to be there anyway. I might as well have something. I might as well get a record, right? You know what? There's no pressure.
I know. You know, in my case, I guess I always just assumed that I would have all the time in the world to do this stuff. Oh yeah, I'll get to that one day. I'll get to that one day. And it was really losing my mom that sort of snapped me out of that, you know. And I went, because you just assume your mom's gonna be around forever, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and she's not coming back, and then you're going like, you know, then you start. I never thought about mortality ever until I lost my. And now it's like all I can think about. So the first thing I'm thinking is, you know, I mean, I'm very grateful for everything I'm doing, but I'm going like, man, I don't have an album done, and I've got I know musicians here in town even, you know, that are cranking out albums like constantly, you know, and to varying degrees of quality, and I'm going like, I should have one, you know, I could have one.
You could. You know what though? You shouldn't judge it. You should bring someone else, because if you're such a harsh judge, you should have somebody else listen to it for, you know what I'm saying? Like someone you're like a Lyle or someone like that who's not going to bullshit you. Someone you're like good friends with, that you're going to say, hey, I might not. I remember, man, it's like when I got married to my wife 6 years ago, whatever. I had been married earlier as a kid, and I was afraid, but I trusted her because I knew she was smarter than me. Yeah. So I said, you know what? I'm not really. Yeah. But I said, same here. Yeah, I said, let me defer to her judgment, because she was supposed to get married a few times. She didn't. So I said, she's not stupid. She's not, you know, doing this because it's like, you know, on a whim, you know, she's pretty smart. So let somebody else make the decision, man. That's what I would think about doing. Yeah.
Oh, I would have to do that. There's no way I could do it myself, man. I'm just way too, it would never get done. You know, I really need somebody. What I need to do right now is put together a batch of tunes.
Yeah.
That I'm happy with. And then I actually have, I have some people who've expressed interest in doing that, to where I could bring in another ear and have somebody, you know, tell me this is great, this whatever. It's for me at this point, it's finishing songs is really like, I come up with a bunch of great ideas, but I never finish them. You know, I've got riffs, I've got, you know, hours of just little snippets where I'll get someone, I go, oh, this is cool, I'll throw it down on a voice memo or whatever, even cassettes. I've got cassettes from back in the day. I got a ton of stuff, but it's just a matter of finishing a song. And that's why, I think that's why I admire so much, you know, bands like XTC and Tom Waits and people who write the Beatles, you know, people who, you know, Brian Wilson, people who write great songs, because that's alien to me, man. I mean, I understand guitar. I can wrap my brain around that, but the songwriting thing is an act that I have yet to learn.
Yeah. Well, first one will be the toughest.
Yes, exactly. You're right. And then I know once I do it, I'll go, oh, that was fun. And then all of a sudden I'll go, why the hell didn't I do this 30 years ago?
Yeah. It's always funny. Like for me, the stuff I think is going to be really hard and I'm afraid of is always easier. And the stuff I think, oh, I'm going to nail this, is like, shit, I didn't know it would be this hard. It's really weird. Like in business projects, it's like, God, I didn't realize.
That's so true.
It's always weird, man. Hey,
it's so true, man. I mean, that happens on gigs too, where I go, oh man, I'm really worried about this one tune, and then I wind up like doing a face plant on the easiest song in the set.
That's just weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 more questions, John, and we got our great connection back. Let's hope this stays in longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Best advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Ooh. Well, this is actually interesting, because it's very similar to something you said earlier. But my guitar teacher, who was, you know, just a fountain of wisdom for me, he told me, I remember when I was talking to him back when I was taking guitar lessons, and I was talking to him about, he used to say to me, he used to go, man, you got to move down to LA, man. You need to be heard. You know, he would tell me that. And I would go, oh, man, I don't know, man. There's so many great players, all the great players are in LA. What the hell am I going to do down there? And, you know, and I would always kind of, I mean, anything that would happen, you know, like I remember when I was in high school and there was a kid in high school who asked me to give him guitar lessons, you know, and I went to my lesson the following week and I said to Rick, my guitar teacher, I said, his name's Rick Messina, by the way, he's still around, and just, you know,
shout out to Rick Messina,
brilliant guy. Rick Messina, my hero.
Yeah, he was your biggest musical influence based on what you said.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. And whenever I would be, okay, wait, you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's not you. You don't have to apologize. It's a horrible connection. It's like it's like really good or really bad, like within seconds.
Yeah. What did you just say?
You were saying about something that Rick told you, because I had asked you what's the best advice you've ever been given.
Yeah. So I remember, you know, like for instance, when my buddy in high school asked me to give him guitar lessons, and I went into my lesson the next week, and I said, you know, man, can you believe this kid wants me to give him guitar lessons? And he looks at me and he goes, well, you know, why not? And I said, well, you know, I'm taking lessons. I give guitar lessons. And he goes, well, you know, who are you, if he thinks he can learn something from you, man, who are you to tell him that he can't, you know? And, but the line that came to mind when you just asked me that question was, when I was talking to him about moving to LA. And he says, man, you got to get out of here and get to LA, man. You need to be heard, man. People need to hear what you do. And I said, oh man, it's you know, every great guitar player in the world's in LA, man. There's no room for me. And I'll never forget this line. He said, John, because there's always room for one more.
He's right, man. There's always room for one more.
I always remember, and it was very similar to what you said earlier, man. And that's a line that stuck with me, and it applies in a lot in life, you know, where I go, oh man, I can't do it. You know, there's always room for one more. You know, like if you've got a place in a situation, you know, it'll make room for you. You know.
Man, when I started this show, a bunch of people told me, hey man, there's 650,000 podcasts out there. What are you doing? And I said, I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe nothing. Yeah. You know, we'll soon see. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, that's a very good analogy. You know, it's same thing. Or you're like, man, why am I going to join? There's 8 million Zeppelin bands. Why am I going to do? You know, it's like, screw it. I want to do it. You know, it's like, you know, why? But you know, that my guitar teacher was very good in kind of instilling. I wouldn't say, you know, confidence, because I'm not even confident to this day. But he made me realize that, you know, that there's a place for me if I feel like I belong in something, I could probably find a way to fit in, you know. Oh,
dude, I think you could fit in anywhere, and I can't wait to see you play in 2 weeks now that I've spoken to you. Actually, I mean, seriously. And last question, the Righteous Brothers, yeah. Last question, John. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that change has been intentional, and how much has just been a part of aging?
Ooh, another deep question. I would say that, again, getting back to losing my mom, I think that and that was 6 years ago, so that falls within the 10 years in the question. I would say that I now take nothing for granted. And like I was saying a minute ago, I used to feel like I had all the time in the world, and now I realize that I don't. And so I'm trying to make every day count a little more, and you know, let go of you know, negative stuff, and avoid negative stuff, and just be around positive people.
Yeah, man.
You know, I'm in situations where I'm surrounded by, you know, drama and BS, and I've learned how to get away from it, because I realized that you know, and again, this all began the day after my mom passed away, and I woke up and all of a sudden everything looked different to me, and so now I'm very conscious of you know, mortality, and you know, I mean, who knows who knows how long I'm going to have? What if this is the last day? I can't just take for granted that I'm going to be around. So I'm trying to get some things done that I've put off, including the record, which is sort of the big one. And but I think just in general, I've learned how to not take anything for granted, and to appreciate the good stuff and stay the hell away from the bad stuff.
Man, well, first of all, thank you for everything. You're a really sweet guy. I'm so sorry about your loss with your mom, but I'm so happy that you were able to take that and, make some positive changes and adjustments in your mindset for you, man. Really happy.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, like I say, thank God for music and for the guitar, because otherwise, I can't even imagine. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to, play the guitar. I wake up every day and that's all I have to do in the day. That was sort of the goal,
Well, and on that note, man, like I said, make me your first phone call after that record, or you ready to come out? I'd love to put it on here, man. Let me tell people where to find you.
Ron.
It's John Wedemeyer,
okay.
Or if you're, what's his name? Vince Welnick. It's John Wedemeyer. John spells his last name.
You got to do the.
I got to do the spliff in my hands. Right? It's Wedemeyer. Wedemeyer. John is out with the Righteous Brothers right now. They're touring all over the place, so they're likely to be coming to your town. So come check them out and go say hi to John after the show. Zeppelin USA.
Oh, and also, sorry to interrupt.
No.
We also, if you're in Vegas, we do a residency at Harrah's. We're there during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week. We take the summer off, but we're there the rest of the year because we're touring in the summer. But if you're in Vegas and you want to come play, you can catch me at Harrah's with the Righteous Brothers.
Awesome.
That's sort of our standing gig here.
Awesome. And Zeppelin USA, check out if you're out west in the southwest of the United States, that is, or in California or Vegas, check out their website at like Zeppelin, Z-USA, Zeppelin USA Rocks. So ZUSARocks.com. Also, you can find John on Facebook, and he is also available for Skype lessons. So here's like one caveat. He really likes working with people. I mean, you heard his passion about the instrument come through loud and clear, and just about everything in general. You're a very passionate guy, man. I appreciate that. I really do, man, because I have such a problem dealing with, not a problem. No, maybe it is a problem. Like completely emotionless people, man. I don't know what to do with them. Like, what the fuck are we going to do here? Like, what do we talk about? You are a stone and I'm not. And it's
and you know what?
Oh, I know. And I try to be like compassionate about him, but I'm like, I just don't deal. I'd rather anyway, that being said,
I'm with you, man. It's turning. And we sound like our dads, right?
Yeah, get off the grass.
I go to the store and it's like this, the kid is brain dead behind the counter.
Oh, I know, man. It's
like a zombies everywhere, staring
I know,
at
man.
phones.
Just smile. Life's a lot easier. But let me tell you how to. So if you're into your guitar, and you're just passionate about the instrument and you want to become better at it, there's no better guy to work with than John. And you can email him directly, and he's got a great email address. It's bflat13add9@gmail. I'll tell you what, I'll say that again. So it's bflat13add9. So it's I don't know that you need to use capital letters or anything, but it's capital. It's BB13, like capital B, small b, like bflat13, the number 13, add9@gmail.com. Again, it's bflat13add9@gmail.com. Here he's going to play it for us. There you go. And so email him, tell him what you're looking to do on the instrument, and that's it. And John's new album or EP will be appearing here in the next year. Let's leave it as that.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, and I appreciate your encouragement. And,
yeah, man. I want to hear that shit.
Word on that. And I do too. I'm excited, and I want to get it done, and I know that once I do it, I'll get hooked on it and want to keep doing it.
Yeah,
so
man, it's
maybe
so great.
more to come, As far as the Skype lessons go, like I told you before we did this is the very first time I've ever been on Skype. So, and I've had people ask me about Skype lessons. So now that I'm up and running on Skype, it'd be great. It'd be fun. And I'm looking forward to, I love teaching and I haven't been able to do it as much because I've been on the road, but this is something I could do on the road. So
absolutely,
cool.
Man. All righty. Anything else that I left out or missed or forgot?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, there's, I think we've covered everything. I can't thank you enough, man, for having me. And I want to thank Lyle for recommending me to you. And, I really love your podcast. I was already listening before you and I met.
Thank you.
I love it, man. I love what
Thanks.
you're doing. I love to see it, doing
Thank you,
this.
man. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your support.
Well, you deserve it, man. It's, you have a unique take on it. It's not just picks and strings. I love hearing about the people too.
Thanks, John. It's really kind of you. I appreciate it.
I'm honored.
Oh, man, come on. The pleasure's mine. Are you kidding me? Thanks for all your time. You've been real generous. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to John Wedemeyer for spending time with us. Please check John out with the Righteous Brothers and at Zeppelin USA with ZUSARocks.com, and hit him up for Skype lessons at bflat13 add9@gmail.com. See, it was me, I'd be like C major or something. Make sure you go to Everyone Loves. That's my competency. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, right? Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Dude,